going to be live eventually when I get the microphones on. Hello, welcome aboard to WOR Legacy Division. We're back for a new season of WOR Legacy Division, and season 4 coming up. We are live here in Monaco. Pleased to be alongside you. It is myself, Jota, alongside, of course, none other than James himself, for what I think is going to be a magnificent event ahead of us. James, it is Monaco. It's going to be an absolute blinder.
It is going to be an absolute blinder indeed. Thank you so much, by the way, for welcoming us back for Legacy Division. It's not Legacy Division without a bit of technical difficulties, but we are live, we are here, and we're in Monaco, of course. The scene of where Louis Valentin won by 30 seconds, of course, last season. No Louis Valentin on the books tonight, though, for OP, especially with their controversy as for the last 24 hours. But it should be very interesting to see how everyone is going to get on out on track. Joe Murphy, by the way, out on top. Flopman second, Igor Jelinek third. You haven't missed a beat so far this qualifying session.
Yeah, no, so there is the lineup then for tonight, of course. And there, of course, you know the top 10 teams fighting out to be the world champion here. With, of course, it's TF10 leading from the top with Red Bull from Flopman and Ryan at OP. So they got Shazoo's Tom and Macho from Luke. And then, of course, for CPI. And then for F7R with the Aussie and Legend, you've got Joe Murphy and Pickoff for BRT as previously mentioned. ETA, I've got Sergio and Ian with Giovanni for EPL alongside Raphael. Gabba and Ogween for Novus Racing, and then top tier motorsport Allison and Plaque in the Williams cars. Obviously, it's a new little mix-up. We'll go through all of the teams later down the line, but we do have to go to the live stream right now because it is going to start heating up here in the midnight streets of Monaco.
It is indeed. I think that graphic, by the way, is a little bit out of date because I think there's been a couple of changes as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, just having a look through, I think BRT Lou is a reserve in, who else is in? Igor Jelinek is in, and I think the other one might be, just for the sake of me, I'm just trying to remember who it is. I think it's Dirk, if I'm not mistaken. So them are the three reserves that are filling in here tonight. Joe Murphy go out on top, Flopman there in second, Igor Jelinek there in third. Flopman has left OP, but he is racing for OP here tonight. So it's an interesting dynamic that we've got already. There are drivers out on track, as you mentioned there, Jota, and looking very, very strong so far. For one of the furthest on out on track, I believe, is the man of Ogween, but he's actually invalidated coming through the final couple of corners through the Anthony Norge section out on track. But Joe Murphy out on top, Flopman second, Igor Jelinek third. 10.5 minutes ago, as I say, you haven't really missed a beat of this qualifying session. Everyone is now getting going as Gabor, and that goes quickest out of everyone. Yeah,
on board with Gabba at the moment. Pardon me, on board with Ryan actually at the moment for Outplayed Racing in the Ferrari, going through the right-hander then through Portier, and then underneath the tunnel where we're expecting, I think, probably the predominance of the action tonight, aren't we? Going, of course, into the chicane at the end of it. A little bit of a lock-up on the inside line, but not too bad actually from the Ferrari man himself. Outplayed Racing, though, coming off of the back, let's be candid, a little bit of a disappointing campaign last season. Should have won it, didn't win it. Oh, bang in the wall, though, from Outplayed Racing. And I think that's just a testament, really, isn't it, to what Outplayed Racing really is currently feeling at the moment. A lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure indeed, and I think they were very inconsistent last season as well, which is ultimately they led the first 3 rounds of the championship. They won the first 3 rounds of the championship, and then ended up falling completely by the wayside. And I think they only picked up 2 race wins after that period. So really need to try and put the limiter quite literally on here for OP. Ryan there in 8th position. His first race, of course, was in China back in season 2. So Ryan has got experience in the past here in WOR Legacy Division. He's there in 9th position, but hoping to try and do a good job. Dirk there going into 6th as well for newcomers TF10. TF10 very much regulars out on track, though, on the PS side anyways. Gabor out on top, though. Flo there in 2nd, in the flow right now. Joe Murphy there in 3rd, Flopman there in 4th, and Plaque, the TTM there currently in 5th. TTM's Allison now coming through in towards Tobacco corner, named after tobacco, quite literally, coming through the left-hander of turn 11. 51.2 in the middle sector from Allison. He's looking very competitive, flies through the swim pool section, takes a lot more commitment than I do through there, put it that way, as Allison now comes through the final corner in towards Anthony Norge at turn 19, looking to try and set a good lap time on the board. Should be in around the 109s, I think, the top end 109s, and it's a 108.9, and he goes quicker than Flo, but just behind the ball by 0.02 of a second. So good lap there by Allison.
Yeah, no, really good lap actually from Top Tier Motorsport. Team I've actually been vouching for, you know, James, obviously in the background I've been talking about TTM and saying we can't underestimate these guys. They are going to be a team that I think are going to swallow up the points that perhaps other teams where they end up making a mistake are going to be in there. Ian, by the way, stepping in the Aston Martin, slapping himself into first place there with a 1:088 of his own at the moment. So again, a little bit of a mixed bag, but we are still expecting lap times from the world champions, the defending world champions, as there's Yossi into the wall, going through the complex into the right-hander of that end corner through the Anthony Nogues, and then straight through to the start finishing line as the finishers Larascas eventually get it out, but only goes second fastest. But again, another one in the 1:088s.
Very surprised actually he's gone second with that cloud of the wall coming through the swimming pool section. Looked very, very unstable coming through that part of the track. But Yossi there in second had a really good showing last night in PSF1. Didn't tune in for that. Go and watch that back because it was a brilliant race in Britain. But Yossi there in second, doing really what I expect him to do. Ian Van Noonen, though, out on top. He is a former Veloce Academy man, of course, now part of ET8 under WOR and also a PSGL PSF2 driver as well. So Ian Van Noonen definitely here out on top. Tom is on a lap, I believe, as well for Team Shazoo. He's now coming through the left-hander of to back, and it's a 51-1, so actually quicker than Yossi in that middle sector, quicker than Allison in that middle sector as well. Tom trying to cook something up here, very spicy, like, coming through the right-hander now of Raskas and in towards Anthony Norge at the final corner, turns 18 and 19. Tom then on the run to the line, should be going up there, I think, in terms of this lap time. 1:09.1 puts him at 8, but he did hit the wall, coming just out of Raskas.
Oof, and going through. I mean, the Monaco drift returns is what I'm seeing in the chat, and it will continue throughout this entire tournament. I've got no doubt on that one. Nice comment in from Luke, by the way, saying 9.075 was the cutoff, by the way, for Season 3, which actually may be a critical point as EPL coming out of nowhere, going fastest by 4 thousandths of a second with Raphael. So great lap time there from the EPL guys, and once again showing what I sort of had a sneaking suspicion about, that this is going to be a little bit of a mixed bag season. I know it's Monaco, we've got plenty of races to go, but certainly that is good signs ahead of us that we're going to be in for a little bit of a mixed season.
OP are cooking, by the way, though, in the middle sector. Flopman's looking very quick indeed. 3.5 tenths up now, coming through the final corner. On the run to the line comes the Ferrari. Does he go quicker than Raphael? Yes, he does. 108.7. The former G League man from last season, defeating the former OP man in OP Twist. Will not be getting his knickers in a twist for sure. But Flopman out on top. Raphael second. Ian Van Noonen third as Igor Jelen has retired. And that is through the swimming pool section where he's retired that. So he is already out of qualifying.
Yeah, and there's the car there. Looks like a big tank slapper there as we were on board with Katowski, who's also just trying to avoid a few drivers and hits the wall himself. So few little bits of mixed bags here, I think, for people finding a little bit of pressure. CPI, unfortunately, losing a driver early on. Last thing that they needed on this one. Sergio actually disconnecting from the session as Gatowski can only go as a drift going through the turn one. Only 17th fastest for him, 18th fastest as the driver comes even faster on that one there. So, yeah, a bit of a mixed bag all around the field at the moment in this first session. But one thing is it's sort of making me froth at the mouth a little bit at the moment. The top 6 are all in from different teams, James.
They are indeed. Sergio there in 7th being the exception there, of course, part of ET8. Ian Van Noonen there in 3rd. So they've got a strong showing so far. F7 are strong showing so far as well. Legend there in P8, 109 flat from him. So very disappointing. He's returning to PS side for the first time in quite a while, actually, Legend Rosenberg. Former PSF1 man, of course, back in the day. And if you're looking to try and get on the board. But 9th position, Placky and Allison out qualifying him. Where has the old Legend Rosenberg gone?
It's a good effort, though, from Top Tier Motorsport, isn't it? Again, I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet. I'm just saying they were a team I wanted to watch this season. And so far, despite that, they are probably the fastest team out there at the moment. No, Gabba is in 5th, but his teammate all the way down in 16th at the moment is Ogween. So keep an eye out on the performance of Novus Racing tonight, because they have been, they're a little bit of a mixed bag, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got coming up this season. Sergio reconnecting into the lobby is always a pleasure. One thing I'd like to talk to you about, actually, James, if you don't mind, is TF10. It felt a bit odd commentating with them not in the tournament last season, but it's obviously nice to see them back, but a little bit jarring last season to see that they didn't qualify.
They didn't qualify, and I think it's because they put 2 drivers that don't necessarily qualify as quick as other guys in the team. And I think that's what led to their downfall. Was the same with NLR this season. NLR was exactly the same. Alex Marciano, part of his lineup, he's now changed teams, I think, as a result of that. But the NLR team obviously missing out this side as well. TF10 missing out last season. They are trying to right their wrongs, and so far they're 10th, and currently with Dirk all the way down to 15th. So not too disappointing so far from the TF10 perspective, but everything surely is going to be happening within the final part of this session. Flopman out on top, the former OP man of Twist there in second, and Raphael, and then Ian Van Noonen in third. Currently out of qualifying right now would be Ogween, former Team Valor man, BRT Lou, CPI Igor Jelen, or the GOAT of CPI as I'm calling him after his qualifying antics, Gatkowski for CPI as well, and Gavano, well, he needs to give and take quite literally down in P20.
Just keeping an eye out on Joe Murphy. That's the BRT man, just going through the right-hander. Alfa Romeo, of course, alongside his teammate Lou. 11th fastest, about to start a lap right now. 109.0s at the moment. Got a few drivers in the 109.0s at the moment here. As we've just got another driver just coming across the line by looks like he's in one of the Red Bulls. And I think not a bad lap time indeed from Flo, was it, in that one?
He's crashed. No, Flo's actually crashed coming through the swim into Novell Chicane. He's got caught, I think, on the inside wall. I wasn't bored with him, and he was improving in that first sector. And Flo, because I was too busy taking a drink, I didn't see what happened to him. It's just one of those typical things in the commentary box where you miss something and you blink and you miss it. And that's exactly what happened with Flo. But I can only assume he's got caught either on the inside curb on the right-hand side coming out of the Novell Chicane, or he just clipped the wall on the inside, and unfortunately for him, he's down in 15th, and TF10 are in trouble here, because they're definitely going to have Ogween, Lou, Gatkowski or Gavano improve. Flo will be out, and TF10 will have one driver out in qualifying.
Yep, so that is not exactly what they were looking for. Joe Murphy absolutely chucking it through swimming pool here. Then into La Rascas, as then he heads into Anthony Noakes, and hit a bit of a tank slapper, well held on the oversteer though, and again mounted the curb and into the wall. And that is just a testament to BRT's effort to try and push as hard as they can. But another one falling culprit to the oversteering moments of this circuit, and that is BRT also with a driver out in Q1, and they've also got a risk of Lou being knocked out as well. The last thing that Bunga Racing Team needed, ever the consistent team, in the wall, and they're out.
Gavano not looking good though in terms of an improvement. He only goes 16th, so he is in trouble. Gavano will not get another run either, so you can count Gavano out. Ogween invalidated. He's going for another run now, and he's a 10th up through that first sector. Lou was also a 10th up through the first sector, and Gatkowski just starting on another run as well. So these are the guys to watch out for. For now, there is a 3/10th gap between Joe Murphy and Gavano, and that is going to be absolutely key to Joe Murphy and in terms of their qualifying. If Gavano doesn't improve, which he's not going to, Ogween doesn't improve, Lou doesn't improve, then Joe Murphy is definitely in trouble. And the man who was in P3 in Singapore last season, Lou 300th down, not improving either. BRT are going to be out here in Q1, potentially with both of their drivers, and Lou has definitely confirmed that as Tom now goes quickest.
Tom going quickest, but with Joe Murphy crashing out at the Anthony Noakes corner as we were on board with him, Lou invalidating his lap. BRT have got a double knockout in Q1. That's the last thing that the team, who at one point was looking like a solid midfield outfit, are having a bit of a shaky start out there. Oh, it's an invalidation from Katowski as well, so he will be out of qualifying at the back of the Monaco Grand Prix, James.
And look at who's out of qualifying as well. OP Ryan is out of qualifying. He's there in 16th, and he has crashed coming through the Rascas section, hitting that right side wall. Was invalid just before that period as well. Ryan out of Q1. OP are in strife over the last 24 hours or so, and Ryan now in 16th position. OP out in Q1 with both Gavano from EPL, Lou for BRT, and both CPR drivers and Igor Jelen and Gatkowski. Ryan there, 16th, out of qualifying. That's a big chop.
That is a massive, massive chop, isn't it, for the team who were looking to try and take a title last season. They've got one driver out. We've got both of the BRT drivers out, with Joe Murphy crashing. Flo is also out as well after crashing for TF10. So that means we're only going to be progressing into Q2 with 13 drivers. So 3 drivers will be knocked out in Q2. That does change the dynamic ever so slightly here for this heading into Q2, with only 3 drivers being knocked mapped out here. It's all going to be about what the rest of the field can sort of achieve in this case here, as they're all in all, and going out of Q1 at the moment, it's all smiles for Team Shazoo. Tom leading the way at the top from Outblade Racing's Flopman, and what a mixed bag it is for them, with EPL managing to get 3rd place, Ian van der Linden also getting through for 4th, and then TF10's Dirk in 5th with Yossi in 6th, and then you've got NVR in 7th, and then TTM through Allison in 8th. So apart from, if I'm trying to figure this out here, I am right in saying that the top 8 drivers are all from different teams. What a mixed bag this qualifying is turning out to be.
It is indeed. Placky being the exception, Sergio there in 10th position as well. Williams and Aston Martin, both TTM and ET8, and as well as F7R getting in the top 10 as well, or in the top 11. But you were right. Flo out, Joe Murphy out of qualifying as well. It's going to be a field day going to Q2. Tom out on top from Flopman there in 2nd, who apparently is Welsh. He's not. He's French. Raphael there in 3rd. Ian Van Noonen in 4th, and Dirk in 5th. Yossi there in 6th. Gabor 7th. Allison 8th. Placky 9th. Sergio ran off the top 10. Look at them. 2,000 and 1,000 of a second covering the top 10 there. Right down at the bottom. Legend in 11th. Match at 12th. Ogween 13th. And only 13 drivers going through because Flo's crashed. Joe Murphy, Ryan, Gavano, Lou, Igor Jelen, and Gakowski all out of Q1. And we have never had that before in Legacy Division, where we've only got 13 drivers going into Q2 even.
Yeah, I mean, that's immaculate, but it's immaculate sort of showing, isn't it, in the end? Because you've got to look at it from the perspective of these drivers who, of course, are all trying their hardest to try and maximise what they can from the cars. Whilst out there, obviously, it's a seriously intense track now. It's night time. We don't know what the weather's going to be like, so they're obviously going to be questioning, am I on the right setup? So that's going to be on the mind. But these are professional drivers that are looking to be the best, and at the moment they are a little bit rusty, to say the least, out there at the moment. But I'd have to say 13 drivers going into Q2, as I said, this is going to change the dynamic a little bit.
It is going to change the dynamic a bit, and it's also going to change the dynamic in terms of who we get to see in terms of qualifying. Obviously, Slipstream, I think, is still banned within Legacy Division this season, so they can't use that Slipstream up to good effect. So that's going to put them in a bit of a disadvantage. But the likes of Dirk, for example, the likes of Ian Van Noonen potentially could be improving. We get now into Q2. It's going to be a fascinating thing. If you thought that this championship, Legacy Division, was just a one-team show in F7R, think again.
Yeah, I've got nothing else to add to that one because, you know, we were going through, didn't we, through WR Legacy Season 3 with 3 potential teams that could win the championship. You know, this is the start of Season 4. We've got plenty of races to go here, but my lord, we seem to be approaching some pretty hefty opportunities here for some of the what we would describe as sort of back market teams or midfield teams to earn big points here. Remember, of course, £1,000 prize pool split amongst a set of teams. Some smaller teams could be earning quite big from championships like this one, and with such a mixed bag out here, that could be something to look forward to throughout this season. That's them though, this is now, and we have got 13 drivers all looking to try and get through to Q3 and shoot out for pole. You know, early indications suggest anybody could be on pole here.
Anybody could be on pole. The first man out on track, I think, is TTM Placky, if I'm not mistaken, the 2-time F1 Esports Challengers and Pro Exhibition driver as well. So we are in a bit of royalty here from Team TTM this certainly tonight. That's why they're definitely getting Jottersville off to the left-hand side of me in the commentary box. But Placky now, let's run and ball with him on a lap of the famous circuit de Monaco, the Côte d'Azur circuit as well on Gran Turismo. But Placky now comes in towards the right hand of turn 1 at Sandevot, now running up the hill in towards my favourite section out on track. Masonane Casino Square, you will see an overtake around the outside around here in WOR tonight, as now Placky comes down the hill at a Masonane Casino Square in towards Mirabeau Bass, 18.2 in the first sector as he embarks on toward the infamous Grand Hotel Hairpin. Oof. Goes for the big old Tokyo Drift coming through there, the Monaco Drift as we now call it, now coming through the right-hander of Mirabeau and then in toward the right-hander of Portier, famously where Berlin and Button in 2015 had that collision. Now comes down the hill in toward the left-hander of the Nivelle chicane, looking very consistent so far, Placky, on this lap time. Does someone invalidate through the Nivelle chicane? He's got through there fine. He now comes in towards the end of this middle sector and in towards the back corner at turn 13. 51.5 in the middle sector, so slightly off on what we saw the big times getting set at the end of the session. Must be on a used set of soft compound tyres. He now comes in toward the right-hander of Anthony Norge at turn 18 and 19. On the run to the line, a lap of Monaco done with Flacky. On the run to the line, a 109.5 I think this will be. Ooh, not too bad.
Not too bad. 109.4 for that one, but a 108.8 immediately from Outplayed Flopman. So obviously Outplayed Racing, obviously under a little bit of pressure over the last 24 hours, and obviously a lot of pressure on there as well, as we've got Shazoo Tom, who is out of this qualifying session. He's binned it at Anthony Nogue. So that will be the end of Team Shazoo's Tom, who was, of course, the fastest driver in Q1. So that's a big disappointment there to Team Shazoo. So now it's all on Macho's head here. On board with TF10's Dirk, of course, the only TF10 driver remaining after the Flo ends up getting into an incident. He is on an invalid lap, so this won't qualify, but he will come across the line with a 108.9. That would have put him in P3, so he'd have beaten Ogween, but he would have still been behind, guess who? F7R and Outplayed Racing, as TTM Allison coming across the line for Top Tier Motorsport. Go on, lads, 108.6.
He's a current WOR console Tier 3 driver. Luke Humphreys, you better get him now into Tier 1 because of this performance. Allison out on top, Flopman in second, Legend there in third. Legend seemingly beginning to now hit his rhythm, hit his form. He's the man I think I'm going to back for pole position out of tonight. Currently there in third, but Allison out on top. Another one that competed in Esports Challenges this season as well. Did a fantastic job there as well. And of course, Esports Challenges no longer a thing, apparently, according to F1 Esports officials. But Allison out on top, Flopman in second, Legend there in third. It was running ball with Macho as well. He invalidated on his run. It was a 109.4, so he would have went slowest out of everyone. Ian Van Unen on the lap, Dirk going to be on the lap as well very soon, as well as Sergio for ET8 as well.
Just keeping an eye out on the performance then of Ian van der Linden. Then, of course, the ET8 driver looking to start on his lap now as we follow on with the ET8 driver, not to put too much pressure on him, but of course him and his teammate both through. Sergio down in 12th yet to set a lap himself. Oh, he validates immediately at turn 1, sorry Ian. He's then in that position where he's going to have to slow down and have another go at that one. I'm so sorry on this one. Purple sector 1 though from Sergio apparently for the ET8 driver. I'm saying apparently, not that. It's a rip. Oh, I tell you what, that's one way to do the corner. Lock up the rears and do a drift around the corner from Sergio for ET8. Of course, ET8 I'll be happy to get both of their drivers through to Q2, but as it stands so far, both of them are not going to be qualifying 100%, 187% rule for Ian, of course, not qualifying a lap so far. Sergio yet to set a lap either. Going through the left-hander, I mean, it's a bit of a lag spike, but he will remain on the circuit and continue on his way. So ET8, they're another team that they're a big question mark in my head. I didn't think that they would qualify in this tournament, James, but they've managed to qualify through. They're doing a relatively good job so far in this early sort of process, if you will, of Season 4. But, you know, ET8 are a team that, when they're there, they are there. But when they're not, they are in the background.
Yeah, and Sergio actually goes second with his lap time. Goes 200s behind Allison on his lap time. It's a different Sergio compared to the DNF that we saw in Britain in Season 3 on lap 1. And he's came on so much, I've got to say, has Sergio for ET8. He's done a fantastic job there on that lap time in second. I've got him down in my notes as a young and upcoming driver for ET8. Yeah, so, yeah, when I put that in my notes, just watch out. Sergio there in second, looking very good. Ian Van Unen is just starting on another run. I'm getting a lot of lag spiking going on. The Sergio there leaving the session, that might have been wise. Allison out on top, Sergio second, Flopman there in third. Top Tier Motorsport actually saying in the chat, Allison apparently got blocked by Shazoo on his second run. And if that was the case, and that was his fastest run, then it probably won't get investigated by the stewards because he went quickest out of everyone. Ian Van Unen, though, 18.1 fastest out of everyone in that first sector. Yeah,
really, really fast so far for me. And again, a lock-up on the rear. I'm not sure if ET8 are currently working with a bit of a setup merchant at the moment to try and maximise rotation on the rear of the car. But either way, going through the hairpin, looking very precarious. He's going through the tunnel now and then heading into the chicane. It's going to be a pretty critical set of corners now here. And the corner that I absolutely hate with a passion to back. I cannot do this corner for the life of me. Hits it through the left-hander, manages to avoid the wall, goes through the swimming pool now, avoiding the slow Ogween, I believe it is. Oh, just hitting the wall ever so slightly, then going through into Larascas. Important lap here for Ian. He'll be wanting to try and match his teammate here because ET8 are in a bit of a position here to potentially get a good qualifying position, and good qualifying means potentially good points. Comes across the line third, fastest, exactly what ET8 needed.
Yeah, exactly what he needed. Flopman responding through the first sector and responding again in the middle sector. 50.8 in that middle sector from Flopman. 2/10 quick on Ian Van Unen through that part of the track as well. Flopman no longer like a floppy disc as he comes now in towards Anthony Norge. It turns 18 and 19. I will apologise for him after that as Flopman now comes towards the line. He goes quickest. What a 8.4. That is the Flopman we love to see. Out on top, the Frenchman. How do you like them apples, F7R?
F7R are going to be wondering where their pace is at the moment as well. 6th and 8th respectively. Yossi just coming across the line then to start his lap, and it's going to be fairly critical time here for Yossi because, of course, after... perhaps a little bit of an alarm and a wake-up call potentially now for F7R. Of course, they are the champions, and they were champions, well-deserved champions as well, let's be honest. But it was a well-fought championship to Season 3. But looking how close this tournament is set out to be just in this qualifying session alone. And again, another real lock-up to use the extra rotation of the car. Very peculiar way of doing it, but it works. They will be wondering, what have we got ahead of us now? What have we've got a different championship to fight here, because it's not just going to be the one team we're looking at, it's going to be multiple, and they all have different attitudes on circuit. Going through then the chicane and heading through to Tabac, looking fairly okay, but a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, a little bit more consistent. Legend, interestingly, actually taking a 2-lap approach, it seems, on that. So F7 not splitting the strategies. Yossi coming now through in towards the final couple of corners at Raskas and Anthony Norge. He's looking very strong coming through this part of the track now. Through the final corner, on the run to the line, blasting on that ERS and DRS to the line he goes. And he goes second, and he goes 6,000 quicker than Allison. Look at, though, the second down to 6th. Macho all the way in 6th position, a 108.677 at 600th of a second.
Oh, Raphael
into the mix. We've got now 6 drivers in a 108.6.
Oh, I mean, that's immaculate, isn't it? That just goes to show the amazing effort of these drivers out here, as we've got 2nd all the way down to 7th in the 108.6s. And Macho and Raphael will be wondering, how am I potentially on the brink of being knocked out with a lap time like that? You can't blame them for thinking that, because that is just the testament to what I think is definitely coming up here. On board with Dirk at the moment, by the way. I do believe he is on a hot lap going into the chicane right now. And no, in fact, it might be a bit of a slow lap, actually, by the looks of things, as my timer is, yes, they're saying loud and clear, as I can't read, apparently. He's not on a fast lap. But a TF10, it's always great to see them back in this tournament, but it has been a little bit of a mare, hasn't it, this qualifier?
Yeah, with Flo, of course, crashing out. He's going to start 14th, I believe, as well. It's going to now put Dirk under a significant amount of pressure. He handles pressure very well, but this is a different kind of pressure. When you've got 133 people, including 2 of us in the commentary box watching you, Dirk there in 12th is going to be under all amount of pressure. And that 3/10 gap that he's got to Gabor and Legend, who are currently knocked out as it stands in qualifying along with Tom, Dirk needs to find that 3.5 tenths from somewhere. It's not going to appear from thin air. He really needs to work to try and get that gap down. And if he can't, he is a definite out of qualifying. Ian Van Unen, though, is going to be the first man out on track very shortly indeed for his final run. And he's given himself a lot of time, because he could potentially go for this run, then come back in the pit lane, and then come back out for another run. But I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to go possibly for a down lap and then go for his flying lap when he's actually run out of a little bit of fuel, just to try and get that low fuel load down for his lap.
He'll be wondering how I'm in 8th place at the moment, Will Ian Van Linen. Let's be honest, he's in a situation where with the 108.743 in any other competition, I would expect he'd have been, I'm happy, I think I'll just put my controller down, put my wheel, take my hands off the wheel and just, let the session run out. But and again, it's a bit of an unfortunate... It's a bit fortunate in that there's only 3 people getting knocked out in this tournament. We'll make that 2 now, actually, in this qualifying session, because, of course, Tom crashing out on his first fast lap, which means, as it stands, Dirk and Gabba will be knocked out. Legend will just sneak through. Legend F7R as well, on the brink of potentially being knocked out. It's the last thing that the champions are going to want on the first run here. If they can't get the consistency flowing that I think the top 3 teams last season really had a problem with, then the back markers, or the midfielders, if you will, are going to swallow those positions up, and you can see that very nicely with TTM and certainly ET8, and don't even forget EPL as well. Raphael absolutely flying high at the moment there through the right-hander, and just keeping it nice and tidy, and no heroics through Sandevot indeed from Ian Van Lunden, as he is now going to approach into the casino area, then going through that right-hander. It's going to be fairly critical here that he gets his first sector right, and he's only 7 thousandths up.
Yeah, not the quickest first sector though out of everyone. I think that belongs to Flopman right now. Very close to the wall there. Coming in toward the left hand of the Grand Hotel Hairpin. Now into the right hander of Mirabel Bass. Into the right hander now of Portier. And now through this infamous tunnel section. This infamous tunnel section could be a DRS zone, to be honest, around this track. It's not because of the tight nature of this Nivelle chicane. It is not, and you do not want drivers carrying so much speed in there. They're not going to stop for the chicane. As Ian Van Unen now comes into the left-hander of Tabak. Oh, nearly hits the wall on the inside. The 50.7, though, in the middle sector. Ian Van Unen cooking up something here for ET8. Again, hitting the wall, but now comes into the right-hander of Rascat and Anthony Norge. Looking very good. Yosi out of the session as well. He's retired, I think, in the pit lane, so he feels he's done enough. Not when Ian Van Unen's coming in with a 108.3. Big lap from Ian Van Unen.
And that is exactly what ET8 are now saying as a statement. They are willing to take points off of the top teams, exactly like TTM as well. And look at the scenario. You've got the likes of, you know, you've got the scenario here where you've got the likes of Outplayed Racing losing a driver. He's out of Q1. F7R are also struggling. Legend is currently out of qualifying as it currently stands. He's on a lap, but he is now looking like he's on a slow lap. As it looks like he went ghosted for a second on my screen. And then you've also got the difficulty in Team Shazoo because one of their drivers has crashed out as well. Is this the continuation of the quote-unquote top three not having the consistency? And now those midfield teams are going to start biting and they're going to start attacking. And I tell you what, in this one qualifying session, they are vicious.
They are vicious indeed. Placky vicious to the line as well. Doesn't actually improve a 10th down in terms of his lap time. Allison, though, goes quickest out of everyone. A 108.153. Possibly now on par with what pole position was around here last season. Allison out on top. Ian Van Unen second. He's back in the pit lane. He's done enough. That is a huge gap now for the rest to find. And everyone, even on a 108.6, is in trouble.
Yeah, and Ogween is on a lap. He's a 10th down in the second sector, a 10th up in the first. Oh, he clouds into the wall and he dives into the pit lane. He puts his rear tyre going through Larascas, and that is him out. And Legend is going to count his lucky stars out there at the moment because he knows that one of the drivers is certainly not going to be qualifying, but one driver that still could get through is this man, TF10 Dirk. F7R could be losing a driver as it stands, so this is a critical lap coming in from the TF10 man who's left it until the last minute to have another go. Raphael comes across the line. He goes fourth fastest for EPL. What a lap time indeed from the midfielders here who are really starting to bite back now at those top three, quote unquote. And a 2.5 tenths up for TF10 Dirk. And that is now going to make Legend look behind him and think, oh, I could be in trouble.
Legend is in trouble. He is in deep, deep water right now. Is the man in 10th position. He's back off his lap as well. So Legend's not going to have another crack at the cherry. Dirk, though, is coming through the tunnel section into the Nivelle chicane. This is the critical part now of the track. This middle sector, as he gets this corner wrong, as he nearly hits the Nivelle chicane. Just about gets away with it. Just about hits the wall on the right-hand side. Dirk not making it easy for himself. And a 51.1 might not be enough indeed. Now coming to the left-hander. Now through the middle sector at Swimming Pool. In towards the right-hander now. At Lascas and Anthony Norge. Is Dirk going to try and improve on his lap time? A 109.152. 3 tenths to find from an absolute miracle position. Dirk to the line.
Misses it.
11th.
Oh,
1,000.
1,000th of a second separating Dirk from Q3, and Legend is going to be counting everything, every lucky star he's got to just sneak through to Q3 by 1,000th of a second. And you know what cost Dirk that one? The Nouvelle chicane. By a mile. He went understeer nearly into the wall, had to get off the power, and all of that power he could have put through into Tabak, and that was it. That is just a bitter shame for TF10 on their re-debut, if you will, tonight. But F7R, the champions of Season 3, are going to count everything that they've got to know and thank the Lords that they have managed to sneak through by 1,000th of a second. The top four separated by 3/10 of a second and half a second separating first from seventh. We're in for an absolute blinder of a qualifier ahead of us. The top six once again, the top five once again are all from different teams. Any team could get this pole.
Anybody could get this pole, yeah. Allison out on top, Ian Van Unen second, Flopman in third, Raphael fourth, then Yossi fifth, Sergio sixth, Placky seventh, Macho ninth, Gabor ninth, Legend by the skin of his teeth gets through there in 10th, Dirk in 11th, Ogween 12th, Tom there in 13th. Supermon in the chat saying, just put a potato on my car exhaust. God knows what foul thing Dirk is doing possibly to his console right now, because he is going to be absolutely livid with himself just for making that mistake. But not only that, he got put off by Sergio. He left the session coming to that middle sector, caused a bit of a frame drop, and I believe it put his lap time potentially 3/10 down on what it actually was. So Dirk, if that is the case, TF10 might have a potential thing there to look into and say to the stewards, right, he put me off, he left the session, shouldn't be allowed to join, we should be in Q3. And I rightfully think that.
Could potentially be a factor. We're going to go back live once again because we are going straight into Q3. And I tell you what, we're in for an absolute blinder if anything, if this has got to go by here, because it's just absolutely amazing what we've got here. I think one of the Ferraris, I think it's out, of course, the last remaining outplayed racing driver, Flopman, immediately wanting to set the precedent here. But you've got to say, so far, the top three, quote unquote, that consistency problem that probably could have led them to some massive issues in Season 3, but only just managed to get away with it because of the lack of consistency from the midfield, is still there. And that is going to now allow the teams that were in the midfield that saw that problem and trained on it to end up earning some big points here. I'm going to just put my hands up in the air and say, I'm sorry, I think Outplayed Racing, I think F7R, and I think Team Shazoo are in trouble here.
They are in trouble. They're trying to make up for it, though, by being the first two teams out on track, though, OP and F7R. And it's this fabled old tale that we had in Season 3, where we had OP against F7R pretty much every week. It was like a new battle within World War II, I think, the way they were going last season. Flopman, though, the first man out on track, he'll be looking to try and defeat Allison. Allison was so quick there in Q2. Flopman, of course, will be on a set of used tyres. I can see already he's on a set of used tyres, just even on this outlap. So Flopman on this used set, so will not be quick initially, but as the session progresses and the soft compound tyres come on, he'll be right there or thereabouts as Flopman now comes in towards the right-hand Ravanti Noj and is about to start his lap time, running down in towards turn 1 at Sandbot.
They are in trouble here, and I think Flopman needs to go out there with his head, properly firm on his shoulders now and say, you know what, I'm taking control of this scenario, I'm taking control of the circuit, and I'm going to take control of the pole position that I so strongly desire. But there's people in the chat, got FRT Jacob saying that he reckons Allison is going to end up, again, mistake going through the right-hander from Flopman. This is what I mean, that consistency problem is going to remain a factor, I think, for the foreseeable, especially for Outplayed Racing, who have obviously in tumultuous times at the moment. The last 24 hours have been pretty ridiculous for their team. But I do agree with Jacob. I think there's a real sort of shot here, and I don't even say they're a dark horse. I think TTM are favourites potentially for pole here, and I could see Ali Win potentially getting, I don't think it'll be a 7.6, but certainly 8.1, 8.0s.
Oh no, Flopman in the middle sectors, a 51 flat, so already going to be beyond that, I think, even in terms of pole position. I'm going to say a 107.7 for pole position, possibly from Allison. That's who I'm going to go with for pole. Legend has definitely let me down so far. Sergio Levy joining the session. Flopman now coming through the final corner, though. Going to set the benchmark for Q3, a 108.9. So good lap time there by Flopman, but as the session progresses, the times will get quicker and quicker and quicker, and we'll have to see how everyone gets on. In terms of comparison, by the way, Allison an 18 flat, so actually down on Flopman in the first sector. Same with Flacky, same with Legend, and Legend's actually now coming through the final corner on the run to the line as the F7R man. And he goes quick as 108.7, so already 2/10 quicker than Flopman. And F7R, I believe for the first time, quicker than OP.
For the first time, I believe they are the quicker than OP, but I do believe it is a used set of soft tyres at this point, surely. I mean, they're an old set of used soft tyres for them to be this early on. Of course, the track is going to warm up and get a little bit more there, but I do think that the tyres are used here. Here comes Allison, then it comes across the line. He's looking to go even faster with a 108.3. If that is a used set of soft tyres, you might be right. This might be 107s here. This is going to be detrimental.
And it's going to be detrimental. Placky there going second as well. Could we end up maybe with a TTM 1-2 right now? You put them in as potentially a team to watch out for. Yeah. You are loving life right now.
Oh, I'm smiling for me.
Placky in second, Legend there in third. Just trying to see if there's anybody actually on a viable lap. Gabor is on the lap. NVR 50.8 with Gabor, former BRT man, of course, last season. Now in toward the final corner, on the run to the line. Should be going, I think, second with this lap time. He does, 108.5, so good lap by Gabor. But again, they're on the used set. Do not be surprised if they waste away the next 4 minutes of their lives, and then they come out with about 3 minutes to go in the session, and then go for their final run on a set of fresh softs.
Ian van Unen is struggling out there at the moment and invalidates his lap. Sergio looking to set a lap, but he's currently on an out lap. Yossi invalidated his last lap for F7R, so nothing on the board for him at the moment. But there again, look at that. Team Shizou, Outplayed Racing, F7R, the teams that I'm saying I think are struggling with their consistency, all consistently beaten by TTM and NVR there, and they are the slowest lap times of the people who have set a lap time so far. That is, I think, a testament to the scenario. What you're seeing there is the embodiment of the issues that F7R, Outplayed Racing and Team Shizou last season, and they've not fixed it in the period between Season 3 and Season 4, and now look what's happened with all of the teams that are considered midfielders. They're now competing, and they're quick.
Yeah, F7R as well, to be fair, Legend and Yossi isn't entirely the most strongest lineup they could have put out tonight as well. I would say with Legend, of course, returning to PlayStation, I think it's one of their weaker lineups, I've got to be honest. Yossi did well last night in PSGL, but Legend returning off what I think can only be described as dire straits in PCF2 this season. He'll be looking to try and improve. Gabor interests me, though. Going for another lap, it seems. The NVR man really wants to try and set the timing screens alight. A 108.5 is current best. Thought he would have came in the pit lane, but he's not. He's going to go for another run, try and get these U-softs out of the way, and then go for a fresh set of soft compound tires toward the end of the session. And he's already a 10th up on this first sector. Oof. So Gabor looking pretty quick through the first sector, and Tokyo drifts it coming through the Grand Hotel Hairpin.
Looking at the Raphael at the moment for EPL, he's looking fairly sharp in the second sector, actually, as he goes through the right-hander of Anthony Nogue, and he's going to come Ian van der Unen coming across the line with a 108.2. If that's a U set of softs, that's going to be critical. Raphael, 108.5. Again, if that's a U set of softs, that's going to be critical. Look at the scenario. Again, I keep saying the embodiment. F7R, Outplayed Racing, Team Shizou, the slowest drivers so far. There goes ET8 with Sergio, 108.746. But that is a testament now to the performance of the midfield teams who are absolutely flying out there. Purple sector 2, by the way, for Gabba at the moment, who's looking to try and set the timing screens alight on a U set of soft tyres, we think, as he comes across the line right now, and he goes third fastest with a 108.483. He does improve, but he's going to be coming in, get a fresh set of softs and getting straight out there. He hasn't got a lot of time.
Yeah, and he lost a lot of time just through those final two corners that Anthony Nogue went far too deep into the final corner. Basically, had to recover the car mid-corner and then fly it to the line. But by then, he'd lost 0.2 of a second of the 2.5 tenths that he was finding through that middle sector. So Gabor there in third, Raphael there currently in fourth. OP Twist currently looking to try and twist and shout in his position right now in fourth. Yossi there in 10th as well. But we'll try and see if there's anybody else in the lap time. Flopman is down in the first sector. Sergio's obviously backed off his lap. Yossi, I'm going to be interested to see how he gets on in this first sector. I'm going to go around a 17.9 in the first sector. No, 18.1. Yossi is off the pace completely here.
It's turn one, isn't it? He tried too many heroics to Zandvoort and just drifted his way. And that's why you might have just heard me chuckle in the background. He's throwing the car around there. And I just have a feeling at the moment F7R are feeling the pressure and they're overdriving. They're doing what would be classified as a Fernando Alonso potentially for some. He is overdriving the car and it is causing some serious issues as regards, because he's chucking the car through the left and the right handers. Of course, it's typical, maybe what you'd expect from a wheel user is just that you throw the car through the corners. It's a 50.6 in the second sector though. The first sector was off it, but the second sector is absolutely flying here. Let's see where he goes then through Larascas then into Anthony Nogue. It's going to be a pretty critical set of corners for F7 Yossi, who are looking to try and get in there. F7R, where are they going to come as they come across the line right now? Second fastest, 108.2. Is that a new set of softs though, I wonder? I will wonder if at this point, with this amount of time left in qualifying, that might be new.
I think it's actually old set. I'm looking on the rear compound tyre, the graining, basically, the light shining off the middle of the tyre. There is a little bit of blackness going through the middle of the tyre, so that is a worn set that I believe that he's on. But a good lap nonetheless. Flopman there in third as well. Good lap nonetheless as well from the LP man. He looks like he's going to go for potential another run as well. Alowin there in fourth. Placky there in seventh. The TTM there on outlaps right now. Ian van Unen, a former Veloci Academy man, currently out on top. Looks like everyone, though, is going for around the 107.8 and 107.7 range in terms of pole position. But Alowin looking to try and win for TTM on his lap down towards Zandvoort.
Yeah, couple of critical laps coming in. I think, into the wall though slightly for Ali Wynn, who's looking to try and get that pole position. Going through the left-hander through Casino. It's going to be a fairly critical set of corners here now for Allison, because of course if he makes that one mistake in this particular session now, and you can see there he's already a tenth and a half down, so I would expect now surely he's going to back off and have another go at this one. Oh, look at that. Big lock-up going through the corner. I think that is his lap over and done with. Placky looking to try and improve though in the first sector. Very close to the wall actually. He's finding the apex ever so slightly. Oh, he's in the wall. It's Placky too early into the corner, and that is critical for TTM. The last thing they needed was for their driver, who were looking like it could potentially be a good qualifier for TTM. They've got one driver out, and suddenly Allison, the pressure is doubled on him.
Allison has got double pressure on him, but Placky took that pretty much like I did in my league race around here. Too early into the corner, in towards Massenet, you're in the wall, and unfortunately for Placky, out of the session in what could have been potentially a very good lap, because it looked like he was going improving in that first sector before that period. Yossi on a lap as well, along with Ian Van Noonen. They've just started on theirs. Flopman, it seems, on his lap. Allison is into the pit, so Allison is not going to be winning here in qualifying. He has made a mistake on that lap time, clearly not enough time to try and drain the battery back up. But Allison there, in fourth, not going to be having that. And Flopman is a spawn coming out of the Nivelle chicane. Not sure if somebody's put banana skins on the track right now, but it's ending a bit like Mario Kart at this stage.
It certainly is at the moment. Yossi coming across now. He's now absolutely flying. And these are certainly new set of tyres. You're absolutely right. I think earlier that was a used set. So this may be the precedent setter for F7R. But the question is the ET8 going to be the team that's going to lead on the way? That's a big tank slapper from Yossi, who's going on the curb, and he's really pushing the car to its limits here. Question is what is his lap time going to look like? 108.2 is what he managed to achieve. We're going to see a 107 as he comes across the line. He is well down the field with 0.5 of a second, and that will be over and done with. So it's all going to be about Unen, and we've got Legend also on a lap as well. He's coming across the line imminently here. So Lunan comes across the line. It's a 108.1, 108.0 is what we got Paul last time around. Here he comes across the line. It is a 108.3 as it stands at the moment. ETA are flying out there at the moment. Macho is 0.2 up in the first sector himself, though, and it might be an improvement here for Team Shizou, who really desperately need this at this point because they don't want to be slap bang in the middle of this track going through into the race here. We've got plenty of other events happening around us. Sergio as well, he's down at the moment in the second sector, looking to improve for ETA and be alongside his teammate. Macho is looking to try and improve if he can, going through into the sector 2 split. Here he comes. He's 0.5 up in that second sector. He is flying out there at the moment. Is Team Shizou going to pull something out of the bag? The purple in the second sector going through to back, and he's keeping his foot very gingerly on that acceleration pedal. That apex was so close to the wall through Anthony Noakes. Here he comes across the line, then does Macho. Second fastest, and in the end it will be ET8 who will get the first pole position of the season as it stands so far. Gabba's not improving. Legend's not improving either, I don't think. So that will be it. Well done to ET8. Pole position.
Ian Van Noonen out on top, Macho in second. Macho was absolutely on that through the middle sector. There is nothing he could have done less than try and find a bit of improvement. And he managed that. He managed to go 0.5 quicker in the middle sector, and then ended up coming up 400th short of Ian Van Noonen. Fantastic lap time by the ex-Veloce Academy man, now part of ET8, of course, out on top. Macho in second, Yossi there in third, Flopman in fourth. The top 4 teams, arguably, have somehow come out on top in Q3. Absolutely beyond belief. It was anybody's to play for, and Ian Van Noonen is out on top. Now, will Ian Van Noonen turn like what Louis Valentine did in qualifying last season and turn it into a 30-second win? Probably not, but you never know.
And you know what the disappointing thing is? Top tier motorsport are going to be screaming because Allison's Q2 lap time was faster than Q3, this Q3 pole position. So Allison had it in the bag, but TTM have not managed to get that Q3 working at all. And I am absolutely livid because I did want to put them on for potential pole, but in the end, Placky ploughing it through the wall, deciding an apex, that is beyond the wall exists. It just doesn't. And then Allison just couldn't get that lap together, and in the end giving up, and he will have to start from 6th and 9th respectively. TTM, it is going to be a bit of a mixed bag for them now. Is that going to put pressure on them for the race, I wonder? That's sort of my guess in that one. We'll take a quick look at the classified results, of course, ahead of the very short break we'll have for the upcoming race. But here it is, pole position. It doesn't go to the leaders of the championship last season, the winners of the championship last season. It doesn't even go to the runners-up. It doesn't even go to third place. It actually goes to the team that are rejoining in ETA, rejoining WOR Legacy Division, but had to fight for their survival. They're on pole tonight by 33 thousandths of a second, less than a tenth separating first from third. That's going to make for a pretty interesting first corner when they do heroics through Sandavort. We're taking a quick short break, of course, as we then head over to the race. We'll be back in just a few short moments for this continuation of WOR Legacy. Stay tuned. Back in a sec. Well, what can I say? I mean, it's just an absolutely astonishing set of events that have happened ahead of us. In the end, we are now, astonished by what is basically a bunch of drivers that were really pushing to their limits, some going a little bit too much. James, your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely wide open. I was literally saying to you in the break that on paper I thought this would have been competitive. I didn't expect it to be this competitive, honestly, in Monaco, where we had Louis Valentine run away by 30 seconds last season. People thought on paper, well, it's just going to be a walk away and somebody on pole position is going to do exactly the same thing. But Ian Van Unen out on top, who would have thought it? It could have went any way, any 10 teams, I think. Any of the teams that is here in Legacy Division could have been on pole position tonight. And I'm just going to say that out now because they did a fantastic job. Ian Van Unen, the one out on top, though, ex-Veloci Academy man. And now he's on top here for his new team in ET8. And what a way to mark your first presence in ET8 by leaving Veloci Academy and putting them on pole position in their first race.
I can't complain. The guy managed to just sort of put in what was just such an intense result in the end, and an intense qualifying session that I really thought TTM had in the bag at one point. Allison and Placky just absolutely nailing it in Q2, but in Q3, they just couldn't get that lap together, isn't it? And it's interesting, and we're both drivers, we've both done qualifying. Q2 to Q3 is obviously a completely different vibe, but that pressure is something TTM have seriously got to look at here, because going into the races, if they end up making more of those mistakes, they're going to struggle to be towards the top.
They make mistakes, you get punished. It's as simple as that. And no matter what track it is, if you make a mistake, you are going to find out the hard way. And that's what Placky found out in qualifying there. He made too much of a mistake coming in towards Massanane Casino Square, hitting the wall on the inside, and he found out, because he was looking really good up until that point in qualifying, one mistake can throw a complete and utter curveball in terms of qualifying and in terms of the racing as well. I really hope we get to see a few curveballs, maybe a safety car even here tonight in Legacy Division, but who knows what is going to happen. I would say get your predictions in the comment section, but I think that might be just a thin air sort of thing that we're trying to say right now.
I mean, feel free to pop it in the chat. Let us know who you think. I still think TTM have got potentially a shout, but it's Monaco. I know that, this is WOR legacy. Overtaking happens at Monaco. Whether we like it or not, it happens. So, well, obviously, whether we like it or not, of course we like it. Of course we like the overtakes. But in this scenario, this is WOR legacy. The overtakes will happen, but I can't see there being multiple opportunities to end up gaining big time if they're going to make mistakes like that, and it's such a critical element. Speaking of mistakes, we might have actually got a little bit of a mistake ourselves here, because we're in our own competition as well. You may have seen, if you follow me on Twitter, because of course Twitter, or X as it's known down there, same for James as well, we're in a scenario where we are just competing a little bit here. And obviously when all the drivers decided that they wanted to go away, they wanted to unpack the garages, we nicked a couple of V8 cars ourselves, didn't we? And we took them for a little spin around the qualifying track at the Netherlands. And you know what? A little bit of a mixed bag, to say the least, as we go over to the WOR Legacy Division Commentaries Challenge.
Yeah, it's just say it's a bit interesting in terms of my driving side, certainly. These were done on the F2007 cars. Let's hope, though, we'll run down in towards turn number 1, in towards Tarzan, and then in towards turn number 2, and then towards turn number 3. And honestly, I was so slow coming through this part of the lap. It was beyond belief. I literally just jumped on the game. You can see the ghost that is running in front of my car. You can see the ghost coming through there. I mean, I'd try and take a better apex compared to Jota there, coming through the hairpin. Up in towards Skyflack at turn 7, and already I'm down on this point. You can probably see him about half a second down at this point. But it's just one of these things where it's for a bit of fun, so don't take it seriously in the chat. Don't say, you crap, you're absolutely terrible. We know we're terrible. We know we are terrible. That's why I'm in Division 4 in League of Europe, for goodness sake.
And this is why this is why we have V8s as well. This is why we use the old F1 cars. We can't be trusted with these modern F1 cars nowadays. But the bottom line is that, this competition is all aimed for just to be a little bit of fun between us now. And you're going to see occasionally, we're going to end up hopping into these V8 cars and just hopping into, these cars going around circuits as we go around this season with the drivers. But in the end, it's all meant to be a bit of fun. I finished with a 1:14.0. You finished with a 1:15.3. So I'm taking the 1-0 going through here into this one. But, the whole point of this little competition we're now going to brew and hopefully we'll bring to you as we get, throughout this tournament, is we're meant to just have a bit of a laugh. And the bottom line is we have set some sort of gentlemanly agreed rules here. No longer than, half an hour doing it. Let's just get back into the game, have a bit of a laugh and see what we can do. I don't know what our next track is. We'll come up with some agreements later down the line on that one. But you're going to see that little bit of competition developing within WOR Legacy whilst this close competition is also happening, James. It's going to be an absolute blinder.
Yeah, and I'd like to invite Evan Dalton and the likes as well, who are doing console commentary. Get yourselves involved in this commentators challenge. And it's just for a bit of laugh. And honestly, if it's 1-0, 2-0, whatever it might be, obviously we'll see how everything will go on out on track. Luke Humphries, by the way, mentioning it's better than Bowman supercar laps. I mean, to be fair, I would have paid money to see Liam Bowman going around in a supercar. But then again, you can't really have a flying Scotsman in a supercar now, can you?
No, not in one of those, because they'll just absolutely fly around, won't they? And that's the bottom line of it. I mean, we're still waiting on, if you're wondering why we're currently in a delay at the moment, and why we're trying to fill, the reason why is because we're currently restarting the lobbies. The mandatory restart that we have in this session, which is going to allow the drivers to get themselves ready. It gives us a chance to get ready as well, and also talk specifically with you guys in the chat at the moment as well. Plenty of people, in there as well. I've just seen Liam Bowman throw a whammy in there as well. I'm just opening it up now at the moment. So I can see that I've accidentally overtaken you. Sorry about that. There we go. It's an absolute it's a pinnacle sort of scenario, isn't it? Now for these drivers. Now we're going through into the into the race. First opportunity to earn some big points. It's at Monaco, so it's the biggest challenge. What would you expect to be the main sort of focus now, do you think, for these drivers? Is it going to be overtaking early on, or is it going to be focusing on the strategy and focusing on how we adapt the race? I'm curious to what's your mindset in this particular scenario. Say you're TTM in 6th.
My mindset would just be stay out of trouble on lap 1, lap 2, and then just try and find your rhythm out on track. I think it's going to be so important, because what we saw last season, where Louis Valentine came from, he was on the front row of the grid. He ended up winning the race. And it does pay where to be in here in Monaco. It pays to be on the front row of the grid. And if you're not on the front row of the grid, you're going to struggle, quite frankly, to try and make up ground unless you're on a different compound of tyre. And if you're not on that different compound of tyre, then it's going to be a real struggle as a result. I've got in my notes, potentially in terms of challenges as well, the barriers. We saw it in qualifying. The barriers absolutely pose a risk for these drivers, could pose a risk in terms of safety cars and VSCs as well. And bumps on circuit as well. Coming through Massanane Casino Square, where Placky crashed coming through, he obviously hit the wall on the inside of turn number 4. But before that, there was the bump coming through turn number 3 on that inside curb. That's what forced him off a little bit off centre, and that's what forced him in the wall, unfortunately. So the bump's definitely going to be interesting to try and compose with. We are waiting for one more driver. You've got an invite, by the way, Jota, as well, to the new lobby that is up, and we are just waiting on the grid to be set. Normally, though, with Ryan, he is pretty quick in getting these custom grids set up.
Yeah, and fingers crossed, my lobby will, my game will allow me to join the lobby at the moment. It's currently just stuck in a loading phase, but you know what's to expect of games like this one nowadays, isn't it? It's such a shame. But here we go. Yeah, finally, I actually think I've got that sorted now. Have I got this sorted? Have I got an invite? I don't believe I have got an invite, apparently, according to this, which is very odd, but we can wait for that one to eventually come again if you won't mind sending me another invite. Either way, what's your guys' thoughts actually looking into this race now? Because if you're in a situation where, let's say you're ET8, you've got pole position at the first race of the season, you're putting, some serious pressure now on, the people that should be winning, quote unquote, should be winning these races. Do you go out there with full intent to stop them from making any progress, knowing you're faster than them? Or do you think, well, these guys have got more heritage potentially towards this kind of thing? Do I not put my team under any pressure to lose some big points? That's, a couple of ways to think about it here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think mentality is going to be a big thing coming into this race in Monaco. As I say, the further you start down the field, the less chance you've really got in trying to excel and trying to make your way through the field, unless you're on a different set of tyre. That's why we might see drivers on a set of soft compound of tyres starting off the session and then transitioning onto a set of mediums or a set of hards going later on in the race. It will really put you in a good position, though, going forward if the mentality is there. And the drivers right now will probably be thinking, right, it's game time coming up in a couple of minutes. We need to get everything focused. The engineers will be telling the drivers to focus as well. I'm sure there are going to be breaks. They're going to be toilet breaks right now as well from some drivers. But it pays to know the game well, and it pays to know yourself well as your team. And I think that is going to be really important going forward here in Monaco, because everything is to play for. It's the first round of the championship. You want to hit the ground running. OP hit the ground running. Look what happened, though. They ended up finishing second in the championship. So can it come back to bite you right where the behind doesn't really work? But yeah, there we are.
This is where it's all going to be about, I think, when we think about, because that's something I want to speak about, actually, whilst we're still waiting on everyone to connect. In fact, I think we're just about to get going. When we look at the scenario here with, the drivers out there in Outplayed Racing, in Team Shazoo, in F7R, let's just be perfectly candid here. The consistency problems are quite evident still, especially for Shazoo and Outplayed, who lost drivers during that qualifying run. What these guys have got to prioritize this throughout this season and really train their drivers on consistency, because it's pretty clear that the likes of TTM, the likes of ET8 have seen this issue and have really developed the drivers in that direction. And now they're putting some serious pressure on drivers like in Outplayed Racing, in in F7R, in Team Shazoo. In that scenario, these back markers, quote unquote, are suddenly going to start become some leaders here. And in that scenario, they're going to take points off of the front runners. Now, I've said that I still think F7R will win the championship, but I have established with a massive asterisk in our private conversations that this championship is going to be really close, because points are going to be taken out the wazoo.
It is. The points are going to be very, very, very close, I think, come the end of the season. We are luckily, though, beginning to get ready. We're getting readied up right now within the lobby, so hopefully it's not too far away until we get going out on track. And it makes me now say in the comment section, who do you think the guys are going to win out on track? I'm immediately going to put myself on the spot and say F7R Yossi's going to win.
Paul Cole, I think his qualifying suggested that there's a little bit lack of consistency in him, though. He is the fastest out of all of them, but I would expect there may be some issues with him. I would double down and say Allison, I think, could have a shot at this one, but I just can't see with how they've qualified now in Q3 that they're going to make that sufficient progress. So I'm going to just say Ian's taking the win from Pole and say that, I know it might be a safe bet, but let's be candid, ET8 winning the first race of the season, WOR Legacy at its finest.
Yeah, I mean, I think when they debuted in Silverstone last season, Matteo took the win, if I'm not mistaken. And they hit the ground running there. Matteo did a fantastic job there. Of course, he's part of the team for ET8 this season. So going to be interesting to see how he gets on out on track. He's a very good young rising star as well. So I look forward to seeing how Matteo gets on out on track. And also, I look forward to seeing how Kai Pearson gets on track in his new role as NVR driver. He's still Veloce Academy, but because of the wildcard thing that we've got going on in Legacy Division, he is a Novus Racing driver. So him and Liam Bowman teaming up together later on in the campaign, yes, please.
Going to be in for an interesting one as well. You can see on your screen we're finally in the lobby, so we're going to wait for the countdown that doesn't exist at the top of the screen. So at any point we could get going in this one here, as we've got loads of people in the chat at the moment waiting for what I think is going to be an extraordinary race ahead of us. But leave us your comments, let us know who you think. Jacob thinks Aliwin's got a top 5 in him. I think that's actually a fair comment, to be fair. I think that's more realistic than a potential win. You know, it could be in for an absolute blinder, that is for certain. But yeah, looking across the field, what are we going to expect, do you reckon? Do you reckon there's going to be a bit of carnage, a bit of heroics into Sandevot?
Of course there is. It's Monaco. I wouldn't expect anything more, anything less around here. Of course, Monaco has been 2 times before on the Legacy Division calendar, and Tyler Hardy took the win for Talent Factory that day in Season 2. Louis Valentine second, Declan Barrett, VSR Smokey there in third. Louis Valentine then took the win last season. GL Flopman in second, FRT Chelsea third. So Flopman, interestingly starting up there in, I think, the top 5. G-League second last season. OP's Louis Valentine was second the season before. Is Karma going to strike twice, maybe, for the man of the former G-League man, now OP man, and Flopman?
I wonder. That is going to be the question. I'm actually interested to see the tyre scenario. Of course, it is dry, so we are expecting sort of medium and hards, potentially a few brave souls going on the softs, James. You know, strategy-wise, we are expecting probably a 1-stop here tonight, but there could be some that want to mix it up with a 2.
Yeah, I've just had a look in the race director. It looks like majority of drivers are going mediums and hards. I think Dirk is going to go on a set of softs further down the field. But you need to be, I think, ideally on a set of hards, and then you can get to a set of soft compound tyre later on in the race. If you're on a set of soft throughout the field, if you're on a set of soft, say in the mid-pack, for example, it is going to be absolutely key for you to get a good start and avoid any trouble, and then make your way through the field calmly but fairly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what it's all going to be about. 152 of you tuning in. Over 1,300 viewers already have tuned into this stream at some point in this session. So thank you very much to every single one of you who are tuning in tonight for what is going to be, I'm sure, an exciting season opener for Season 4 of the WOR Legacy Division. It is myself, Jota, alongside James Head, your usual commentators for this event. And we are just waiting for the drivers to be brave enough to get going for their rush into Zandvoort. Wonder if we're going to see anybody do a little bit of a Ragunathon going through turn 1, maybe just avoid it and use the pit lane exit. Let's see, as the drivers are certainly going to be lining up on the grid imminently. In this one, here it is then. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, and it's 5 lights. It's 5 lights, and they are a... Go, the drivers here, they are on the inside line. Ian van der Oonen for ET8 trying to defend from an instant attack from Shizu's Macho, but immediately down the blocks here comes Yossi down the inside line, but well defended from Macho around the outside. So Oonen leading the way from Yossi, and then Flopman in 4th. Legend stays in 5th place, but we've got a bit of an attack and a bit of side-by-side action happening. Oh, very close between EPL and NVR around the outside line. They still say remain side-by-side then, and surely they're not going to go side-by-side through here. That would be precarious, and there it is in the end, and looks like actually TTM Plaque trying to welcome himself into the mix. Around the outside, they collide ever so slightly. Does the EPL driver in trying to defend all the positions for P7. He's now down in P9.
And that might be rear wing damage potentially for Gabor and all of that as well. It was Raphael to the inside line. on the inside of Placky. Placky in the end getting the job done on him. Raphael there in 9th, having a bit of a Constantina. There was a Constantina further down the field as well. Joe Murphy and Flo, 14th and 15th, but Ian Van Unen has shot away out in front. 1.6 seconds as they come through the swim pool section for the first time. Macho in 2nd, Yossi there in 3rd. Ian Van Unen on a set of medium compound tyres, which is why he's pulling away so much. Macho in 2nd, Yossi there in 3rd. They're in their own private fight as the end of lap 1 comes. Most positions gained, by the way, at the end of lap 1. Not Gavano, because there is a yellow flag in the VSC, because Gavano, I think, has got in stripe, and he has lost something along with Igor Jelen.
Yeah, plenty of other people pitting as well. So Igor Jelen in there, as long as the Katowski, as well as, of course, Lou also in as well. So fresh front wings going on. The Alpine, Alfa Romeo and Haas, respectively, brings out the safety, virtual safety car. As a result of the debris on the circuit, the drivers will slow down to the 30% of their usual speed, or sorry, 70% of the usual speed, 30% down on what they usually have around here tonight. But you're right, 1.7 seconds the gap between Ian van der Unen and Shazuz Macho. Immediately out the block suggests ET8 are already going to push as hard as they can to potentially stretch out the lead on the medium alternative strategy, but it does mean they will be slower on the second strategy. So the question is, are they going to be able to make the most of these medium tyres in the first strategy? So this actually is very critical for ET8 at the very, very early parts of this race.
Good thing as well, with this set of medium compound tyres that he's on, we are going to get back underway, I think, within the next few seconds. Ian Van Unen will have that advantage, probably until around about lap 12, lap 13, as we now get back underway, and it's a 1.8 second gap, but Macho was quicker off the getaway, 1.6 seconds down behind, so the gap is pretty much stabilised at that period. Now coming through Raskas and Anthony Nosh once again, but Ian Van Unen, those tyres are going to be so much quicker, about 4 tenths quicker per lap, I think, at this stage, compared to Macho, and he's going to utilise all of that pace and utilise that to good effect now, running up the hill in towards Macedon Casino Square. Macho 2nd, Yossi 3rd, Flopman there in 4th. Flopman already on the back of Yossi. Could we get our first F7 and OP battle of the season? Let's wait and find out. Yeah,
they're getting really, really close here. Flopman's looking very keen to actually get some overtakes done already here. The DRS is now enabled, of course, after the virtual safety car. It is disabled temporarily, but of course it never even applied in this scenario because we never even managed to get to the lap 3 before the virtual safety car came out. But the DRS is now enabled, and that is available, of course, on that main straight after Anthony Noakes going into Sandoval. That's into turn 1. It's the only place where DRS is available on this occasion. Macho then is leading the way from Yossi and Flopman for 2nd place, but Ian Van Unen is absolutely flying out there at the moment on these medium tyres, so he's now just going to have to push as much as he can and make the best of these medium tyres, knowing that he's going to be losing time on his second stint when he goes onto the hards and everyone else moves over to the mediums. Maybe some people moving to the softs as well. We have seen people take the hards extra long and go through to the soft towards the end of this race for around about 5 or 6 laps. So interesting strategy calls all around the field, and of course him getting the fastest lap of the race. There it is. His nearest medium tyre runner, Ian Van Unen, by the way, is down in 8th place in TTM's Plaque.
Yeah, and Sergio was teammate, actually, Ian Van Unen's teammate, Sergio there in P10, right on the back of Raphael, just before Anthony Norge. Just lost a bit of time coming through the final corner. Now puts him on the back foot compared to the EPL man ahead. The EPL man and 9th doing a good job so far. Ogwing trying to chase down as well. There was a little bit of a bump there on the inside. Oh, my word. Alfa Romeo, Joe Murphy nearly in strife in the background. Gets caught on the bump coming out of Casino Square. This is why I said specifically the bumps can catch you out. Joe Murphy nearly found that coming through Casino Square. My word, that was a recovery and a half. Yossi there on the back of Macho in towards the tunnel for 3.3 seconds. Macho at this stage is just going to be about park the bus on the back of the F7R man, an OP man, a flop man there in 4th. But Ian Van Unen escaping away pretty much like Louis Valentin did this time last season. It's almost getting a carbon copy again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only carbon copy of the season last season that we're getting this season, to be honest with you, because it's an absolute mixed bag.
Flopman to the inside line in towards Raskas. That was never, ever going to work. The OP man trying to force the move on Yossi. Very late indeed. They're now ghosted inside of each other down in towards turn 1. Legend, I think, is going to jump ahead here of Flopman. Might be the other way around. Flopman is now just ahead of Legend. But that was absolutely ridiculous from the OP man. You never attempt to move into Raskas if you're stone cold sober, let alone just drunk on adrenaline, I think. And that's what Flopman's found out. He tried to spy a gap. There was a gap there. Yossi shut that door. Flopman should have never went for that move. Simple as.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens when you end up in a position of finding a little bit of trying to find the right word for it at the moment, impatient. He's a little bit impatient at the moment, and you can tell with how he's driving. He's a little bit more aggressive versus everyone else at the moment. The only thing that he's not really that aggressive about at the moment is actually his ERS. Like everyone around him at the moment, everyone's not really using that much electricity from their engine at the moment, so everyone's just sticking with the raw V6 power in the back of their F1 cars. But while they're doing that, Ian Van Oonen for ETA is now 4 seconds ahead of everyone else at the moment. Now, granted, he's on that medium tyre versus everyone else on the hard, but whilst they're all battling with each other at the moment, as Yossi is looking like he wants to try and get some inroads on Macho here, we'll see. DRS enabled. It's looking like here that Ian Van Oonen is able to just edge the gap that he's looking for at the moment in order to make this medium-hard strategy work. As it stands, gap 4.2.
Yeah, and it's an average of about 6-7 tenths a lap that he's gaining right now, which is bigger than what I would have thought around here. Macho and Yossi, 4.2, 4.3 gap now behind, coming through in towards Mirabeau. Yossi there in third. Just looks like he's struggling maybe with a little bit of rear-end grip, just coming through the Casino Square section. Just had a bit of a tank slapper almost, recovered it well, but now he's on the back foot compared to Flopman, and Flopman might be there for the taking again in towards Raskar, so goodness knows what's going to happen. But Ian Van Oonen out on top, Macho second, Yossi there in third, definitely looking good so far. Everyone's in a big old DRS training behind. Ryan dropping off that along with Kakowski, finding the pace a little bit too hot right now, is the man of CPI in 16th. Of course, Lou, Igor Jelen, Gavano, and Flo all having various incidents out on track. I think Flo had front wing damage. Gavano, Igor Jelen, and Lou all got caught up in that instance. They are pretty much now half a lap down on the leader, Ian Van Oonen, who is just streeting away out in front. Tice Rook in the chat, I'm sure if he's there, is going to be very proud of the former Veloce Academy man right now.
If you are new to WOR Legacy, by the way, welcome aboard. Thank you for being alongside us for what is going to be, I'm sure, a very, very interesting season ahead of us. If you're a bit unsure about what's going on at the moment, what you have here is a bunch of esports teams all racing to be the best team in the world as they make the win the biggest share of a £1,000 prize pool. But just to make note, if you are, again, not familiar with the particular format here, there is a slight difference in the points that we award. Top 15 earn points, 40 points for the winner, 32 for second, 27 for third. There are 2 points on offer for fastest lap as well, so plenty of points on offer. And as it stands at the moment, yes, F7R are probably going to be getting the biggest share of them, but when it comes to the team game, it's F7R and TTM that are probably going to be earning the biggest amount of points out here at the moment, because everyone else is a bit all over the place. Ian Van Oonen leading the way for ET8, but his teammate at the moment is all the way down in 10th, which means he'd be only getting a good 6 points for his team. So again, that little bit of consistency and a little bit of difference in showing between the teams. As it stands so far though, F7R, who are a team that I've been slating at the moment for their consistency, are keeping it consistent in third and fifth at the moment.
Yeah, they're keeping it very consistent right now. Yossi and Legend, that's what they need to be, I think, around this track. Sergio's going to try and set his sights on Raphael down in towards turn number 1. Going to try and make Raphael look like a member of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles up in towards Massenet, but he's not going to get the job done, is the Italian on the back of Raphael. But these puns, honestly, are getting worse and worse.
No, you know what, James? You know what, James? I'm giving you the appreciation for that one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was the... Oh, I nearly swore then. You know what I mean. The stuff for me then. So we've got a bit of an attack here. Oh, and Yossi and Macho getting into a little bit of a scrap going through here. That's going to be parking it and allowing Ian Van Linden to just park away here. But look at that. As around the outside, Yossi goes. Macho is struggling. And now it's going to apply Flopman here. That's come out of nowhere, hasn't it? Clearly a mistake somewhere from the Shazoo man. Here he comes down the inside line. Then he wants to try and maximise it. Collides into the back of him, though. Does Flopman, and Macho stays in P3.
Gabor's going to try and get Allison as well. They're leaning on each other coming through to back, but Gabor gets the job done on Allison. How on earth we haven't ended up with a VSC or a safety car there, I do not know. That's what happens when you talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a bit too much, and that's what happens when Flopman tries to go down the inside of Macho. Macho definitely struggling. Yossi there, now into second. Macho there in third. I think Macho did make a mistake, possibly coming out the Grand Hotel hairpin, and now Flopman's on the attack in turn number 1. Alexander Vos, do you not want to park that to the inside line? But now around the outside line into Massenet. This is where I like to see a move happen, but it's not going to happen this time around. Flopman has been far too aggressive
Switchback.
down the Shazoo Man, and the Shazoo Man just about holds on.
Yeah, you know what? He was looking for the switchback, wasn't he? Going through a corner they don't usually look at switchbacks for, through a small hairpin. But there we go. Flopman stays in P4. Yose has been able to find the gap. I don't know where he found it. I believe he might have found it at the hairpin to go side by side. But in all of that, Ian Van Oonen has managed to find another 3 seconds on everyone and is now up at nearly 7 seconds in front of everyone. So as a result of that one, Yossi is now going to be told by F7R, time to push, friend. Let's start using up these hard tyres and we'll see if we can try and get Oonen in the pits. I wonder. Let's see what happens in that one. But as it stands so far, that is a bit of a disappointing scenario for TTM here because, of course, they've got a medium tyre runner in Plaque who is trying his hardest to make some inroads on these medium tyres but is still stuck in 8th.
Legend has a huge mistake. Sorry to cut you off there. Legend on the Flopman. That's a huge mistake coming through the swimming pool section. Macho apparently had a wheel disconnect. That's what we are hearing from Ron there in the chat. Apparently he had a wheel disconnect. I know it is a problem that he has for Portland PSGL and indeed in WOR Console Tier 1 in the past as well. And it is a problem with his... I think he's on a Fanatec, and I think it's a Fanatec wheel that has not been sorted, and it's been like this for months. And Macho there, having that wheel disconnect, he's there in 3rd. He's got to hope that wheel doesn't disconnect. But I know the last time he came around here in Monaco, I think he reported to me when he was on the podium, disconnected, I think, 4 times during the race. He doesn't want that here tonight.
Outplayed Racing's Ryan, by the way, just leaving the pit lane. Fresh set of medium tyres now for the for the other Outplayed Racing driver, and now goes to the back of the grid. So Outplayed Racing, a bit of a sandwich from 4th to 20th for them at the moment. So a little bit of a mixed bag happening for them, with Flopman up in 4th, Macho then in 3rd. That wheel disconnect, such a disappointing scenario for Team Shazoo. Again, that just disappointing moments for those teams in the top 3. You know, it's gonna we'll call them. I think colloquially we'll just call them the big 3 for now. Because, again, it is just that consistency. Again, looking through Larascas for Flopman, but again, cannot find it. The door firmly shut for Macho. Yossi has pulled away big time here. 3.5 seconds between him and Macho at the moment. And he's also starting to close the gap on Oonen at the moment. I'm wondering if these medium tyres are beginning to switch off. Great exit through 1. Not there, though. Through the inside over the bump. He remains there. He is really trying to find it through the inside line. Surely not going to find the gap there. He might find the gap through there. Going through the switchback. He's going to be able to get the traction though, but the inside is closed from Macho, and Macho remains in P3. It's a valiant effort of defence here from Macho, but it is a great attack from Flopman.
It is a fantastic attack from Flopman, and Flopman is definitely getting on with things, and this could lead to Legend and behind maybe getting the pair of them if they both collide. Macho there in 3rd, Flopman in 4th. Flopman has been very aggressive in terms of his movement, but he basically wants to say to Macho, come on, you are ahead of me, get on with it. Otherwise, I'm just going to come steaming down your inside, dive bombing you, maybe into the wall as a result. But Flopman is in a hurry, and he wants to try and get past on the back of Macho, as Thomas picked up a 3-second penalty there. Further down the field, down in 11th position, is Tom, of course, crashed out in Q2, which is why he's further down the field as necessary. Ian Van Oonen, though, 5.8 seconds on the gap. Gap just beginning to come down slightly, albeit a little bit slightly. You'll see there in 2nd, 5.9 seconds and behind, as Sergio was into the pit lane there as well. That will be for the undercut, I am absolutely guaranteed, to the end of the race. Going into a hard compound of tyre. Flopman again. Round 3 between these two. Up the hill,
he's finding it.
Tries to go to the inside line.
No!
Force of the inside line. It's a push to pass for Flopman. He's into 3rd. I did
Giving
warn that
up.
was coming. He's going to let him through.
Fair.
Fair play.
Oh, he's
And now
allowed Legend through though. Oh, he's allowed Legend through though. That's a bit cheeky, isn't it? You've got Flopman there trying to play the sportsman like him, says, oh, that was a poor overtake. I'm sorry. Have the position back. And Legend went, oh, thank you very much. I'll have yours as well. Up to 4th place, F7R will suddenly now be, well, let's be candid. It's perfectly legal what he's just done there. Katowski has crashed, by the way, going through Casino, and has brought the safety car out of the session. And I tell you what, Ian Van Oonen now is now going to be smiling from ear to ear here, because now the medium tyres probably going to be coming off. Time for hard tyres. Everyone else behind is a little bit mixed bag. They can't get the mediums to the end very easily at this point. So actually, opportunity knocks for ET8 and Ian Van Oonen. But as I was saying, in that scenario then, Legend did nothing wrong legally, but morally, you've got to be honest and say F7R are not looking like the nicest people on planet at the moment.
They're not. They're not. And put it this way, if you've got an OP man behind you, you just know there's going to be a battle between the two teams. Ian Van Oonen, though, into the pit lane. Yossi into the pit lane as well. They're going to have to go on a set of medium compounded tyres. But the good thing is about the mediums, they are very low wearing compared to former game cycles. I think on the last game cycle, they were wearing about 5-6% per lap. Only on this game, it's 4% a lap. So it's actually more manageable. Say 40% will get you 10 laps, 80% will get you 20 laps. You're talking still a bit of a stretch, but by the time the safety car comes in, it eradicates maybe 2 or 3 laps out of that, they could potentially get to the end of the race. So definitely going to see how everything is going to get out on track. FRT Jacob, by the way, saying, what happened? I was talking to FRT Chelsea. Chelsea bagged the podium last week, and then FRT didn't qualify, unfortunately. I think that's how we're looking in terms of that. That's a bit rude. I apologise. But Ian Van Oonen on top, Yossi second, Macho there in third. But we are under the safety car conditions, and I believe this is the first safety car I think we've ever had around Monaco.
Yeah, I believe it is, actually. I think we managed to get away without it throughout this one, but this will be the first time that we are visiting a safety car around here in Monaco. That's mixed things up here. Now, I still think Ian Van Oonen now is probably the he is the favourite to take the race victory here tonight, but he has now got 7 cars behind him who are very happy to swallow up any positions he loses being on hards versus mediums, but I can't see these mediums lasting. You make a point about how it's around about 4 to 5% a lap here, and granted we are behind the safety car now probably for the next sort of 2 laps, let's say, so that's 15 laps. We're talking still a good chunk of laps. I think it's 24 laps under the racing conditions on a set of medium tyres. That is going to be very difficult to get to the end whilst maintaining good speed. The only saving grace here, of course, is that they're going to be in a situation where they are obviously not going to be racing too hard because, of course, there's very little overtaking opportunities here. But I digress. It's still going to be very difficult here for those that have now switched over to a medium tyre to get to the end of this race without there being some kind of difficulty with their tyre wear or punctures. I still think that there's a potentially a good opportunity here for the likes of Ian Van Oonen. While this is all happening, by the way, towards the back, PTM Plaque, he's suddenly down in 12th. Now, I think what's happened there is he's got stuck, hasn't he, behind his teammate Allison, and he's also got stuck in the traffic. So he's now lost a bunch of positions, but remember, he's now on a set of hards to the end of this race. I have a feeling he's going to start to, him and Sergio are going to be 2 drivers to consider here, and guess what team Sergio is a part of? It's ET8. He's the next hard tyre runner. ET8 could be on for some big points here.
It could be on for some big points indeed, yeah. That geezer from TTM in the chat saying it was a double stack between them both. I thought it was, and maybe a little bit of the case of getting stuck because there's 20 drivers basically piling into the pit lane at the same time. You're probably going to get stuck behind somebody that's not necessarily going to be there, i.e. a car coming into their pit box. So, Placky further down the field, he's down there in 12th position. Watch out, though, for the man in 6th. Legend is in a perfect posse, I think, right now. He's behind Gabor. Gabor made the move, obviously, a little bit earlier on. Legend now in 6th position. He is definitely one to watch out for. This safety car restart is going to last another lap, by the way, so we are going to get going again on lap 16 unless anybody decides to waste our time and waste everyone else's time, i.e. TF10 Flow there down at 19th to come on for a set of medium compounded tyres, go to the end of the race and then not rejoin the safety car until the next lap around. But there we are. Ian Van Oonen leading the way. Yossi second, Macho on third. The roll call further down is Flopman 4th, Gabor 5th, Legend 6th, Allison 7th, Raphael 8th, Sergio 9th on that to the hards, and Tom there in 10th with a 3-second penalty. Then Dirk in 11th, Flacky 12th, Joe Murphy 13th, Ogwin 14th, Ryan just barely scraping in the points now for OP in 15th. Thanks to, I think, Lou, Igor, Jelen, Gavano and Flo all coming into the pit lane again. Ryan there in 15th position. Myself, James Head, and Mr. Jota taking me through the action once again here tonight in Monaco. Ian Van Oonen out on top, Yossi in second. My fear, though, now, Jota, is Yossi there in second on that set of mediums. If Ian Van Oonen could pull away in that set of mediums, God knows what Yossi can do on this stint.
I think there will be, early attacks from Yossi to try and put Oonen under pressure. But if he can defend, just do some textbook defending, he's not going to be able to let any of those medium tyre runners through. And of course, they're going to burn through their tyres much faster being behind each other. And they've also got to extend the stint by at least 6 or 7 laps. That is going to be a bold call for those from 2nd to 8th, in my opinion. I'll be honest with you as well. I think Ogween, Ryan, and Igor, I can't pronounce that name, but it's the CPI driver. I think they have missed an opportunity here to come into the pits. Now the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. They could have come in. Yes, they'd have sacrificed track position around Monaco, which is obviously something a bit scary, but being on hard tyres versus everyone else around them, they'd earn big off that one. I think they've missed an opportunity there, and they've been caught napping by the moment. But either way, it is lap cut at 15. It will be 16 when we get going again for this Monaco Grand Prix. The safety car is now in the pit lane, and it will be Ian to make the control of here. Van Oonen will decide when he wants to go, and he is going right at the end there. He's not caught Yossi napping though. As we go green again here in Monaco, he's holding that inside line very nicely indeed, and Yossi can't make any inroads. He's not caught Yossi napping, but he's certainly caught everyone else napping. Flotman is caught behind Macho at the moment, and while this is all happening, we've got other people happen to be into a little bit of battling as well, as it looks like Shizu Tom may be under a little bit of pressure.
Ogween picked up damage, by the way, further down the field. That's why he's into the pit lane, down in 19th position. So unfortunate for him. Constantino effect, I think, coming through Raskas it was, where he picked up that damage. Yossi, though, was all over the back of Ian Van Oonen, like the chicken pox that can't go away for 2 weeks. Yossi there on the back of Ian Van Oonen, looking good. I've just had my Duolingo, Duolingo reminder for tonight to learn French. I'm going to say to Yossi, allez les Suisse. He's there in second, on the back of Ian Van Oonen, into the Nivelle chicane. Those tyres are going to be hot, hot, hot. And now he's going to be hot on the back of the Aston Martin ahead of him.
He's going to be hot, 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 but unfortunately his engine's going to be boiling, boiling, boiling if he keeps on sticking behind Ian Van Oonen, and he needs to get this overtake done because, of course, his tyres will be melt, melt, melt if he keeps sticking behind him. So he needs to get this move done, and he needs to get it done now, and it's within the next at least 2 laps. If he can't get past him, he's going to end up in trouble because he will fall into the wrath of Macho and Flotman, who, of course, will then hang on behind him what will be a DRS train when the DRS is enabled at the end of the 18th lap. Here we go once again then. Ogween, by the way, at the back, you can make a point there of him pitting. He is now behind 21 seconds back off of Flo at the moment. And I did say about Tom under a bit of pressure. He's now down to 9th behind, guess what? Sergio on hard tyres. So he's now making some inroads. Gap is 1.3. If he finds a little bit of pressure there and a little bit of a late breaker, it looks like a mistake from Macho.
No, it was Flotman into the back of him. I was on board with him. Flotman into the back of Macho. Again, that Constantino effect coming back to him. And Flotman is saying maybe just sorry for that because he got a little bit too close there to the Mercedes. That rear diffuser certainly going to be bent in. Flotman there in 4th. On the back of Macho on 3rd. Just about to get away with it scot-free. There's no damage on the car for the OP man right now. But Flotman needs to be very, very careful of how he now controls this race. Because Macho there in 3rd. If that wheel disconnects, Flopman potentially could be in trouble, as could the rest.
Oh, look at Legend, though. He is actually starting to push now. And there's a difference here between Legend and Flopman. I think Flopman and Legend are both approaching this set of laps now with a bit more aggression. But critically, Legend is able to keep control. Whereas Flopman, I think that's his second mistake now, whilst trying to be a little bit more aggressive. So now Outplayed Racing will be telling him, you need to calm down now. Seriously, we need to get some points on the board. If we can't get the podium, it's fine. We'd rather just get some points on the board because, of course, remember, Ryan is down in 14th in what is a replica of the situation with Outplayed Racing last season. One at the top and one at the back.
Yeah, definitely so. Lucas Pegg, by the way, saying in the chat, it sounds like a Jim from Friday Night Dinner. Don't diss Friday Night Dinner. That is a brilliant show
series.
When it was on in Channel 4. It was absolutely brilliant. And go and watch that. If you're not from the UK, you can get it on somewhere else. Go and watch it because it's one of the funniest comedies I think I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
And one of the funniest satire shows I think that we've seen as well. Ian Van Oonen, though, back to the present, leads the way. Yossi in 2nd. Macho there in 3rd, Flopman there in 4th. Flopman is trying to get onto the back of Macho. Bobbert saying in the chat he loves that rear end of Macho's. He does indeed. And again, he's on the back of him, coming through his favourite part of the track at sector 3. Very late on the break in towards Raskas. Now in towards Anthony Noj. Flopman there on the back of Macho. But all of that speed that he carries coming through Raskas is lost at the end of Anthony Noj because Macho just pulls away from him down the straight. And now, are we finally going to see Flopman getting the move done on Macho? Running up the hill and towards turn number 4. This will be very risky, but he goes for the inside line. Macho moves across him slightly. Flopman again cannot find a way through. And that Mercedes is looking a very wide boy right now.
Yeah, very wide indeed there. A few lockups happening, or a mistake there from Macho as well. So he is starting to feel that pressure now from Flopman. And I think that's kind of the thing that Flopman's looking looking for is just trying to find the limit of the car without going one step too far. And when he does go too far, in fairness to him, he's given the position up or he's apologised and said, no, I didn't mean to do that. But he is trying to put Macho under so much pressure that he ends up making a mistake by himself. And that is why, and that's the only way you're going to be able to get an overtake done around here. While this is all happening, by the way, Macho is now out of the DRS territory of Yossi. Now, it might not seem like a critical thing around Monaco, but that little gap there means that, of course, Yossi is going to stay within the touching distance of Ian Van Oonen and actually pull away from Macho, which means Macho is slowly but surely going to end up losing ground to those potentially at the front, which means Flopman, Gabba, Legend and Allison are all going to do the same. So this is where it's all about now. Are they going to be able to get back in DRS territory quickly, or is Flopman going to end up realising that first position, that win, is starting to look like it's unlikely?
Flopman, I think, is going to have to pull the trigger sooner rather than later on the back of Macho. He's not going to get the move done in towards Massenet or Casino Square. But the more that Macho holds it up, the more that Flopman is going to get very anxious. And now to the inside line in towards Mirabeau. Tries to go to the inside line. Doesn't get the job done. Again, inside line to the Hotel Heaven. Just patches him slightly and lets him go again. So Macho puts now back 1.4 seconds the gap. In all of this, Yossi is now beginning to save more ERS on the back of Ian Van Oonen, which is going to be incredibly important because not only is it our picks for the race win in first and second, it's incredibly important for Yossi because he manages his ERS better in a race than what Ian Van Oonen does. And on those tyres, Yossi has got to make those mediums work around about now. I'm very surprised, though, that he actually hasn't got past and he's just sitting and waiting right now.
I'll be honest with you, I don't even think Yossi is actually... I don't think he's pushing too hard at the moment, but in doing so, he is actually burning out his tyres regardless of what happens. I think that's the third mistake now from Flopman going into the back of Macho. And again, not pushing too hard to then take advantage of the ghosting system. So fair play, he's actually being quite sportsmanlike in his mistakes. But if he keeps doing that, he's going to find his car, he's going to start getting damage. And as soon as that happens, he's very happily going to end up being swallowed up by the likes of Gabba, Legend, Allison, maybe even Raphael and Sergio. And remember, Sergio is clinging on to the back of these top 8. And remember, hard tyres to the end of this race. He could be one to watch towards the end as these medium tyres begin to burn out. Of course, remember, they've only been racing for about 5 laps of these medium tyres, so they are younger than is listed on here in reality scenario. But these medium tyres are going to end up being burnt out more and more the more that they end up being stuck behind one another. Meanwhile, Ian Van Oonen, who is of course just trying to manage this race towards the front, is there very happily just to hold on here to the hard tyres and just take them all the way to the end without actually putting that much pressure on. I don't think he's feeling the pressure from Yossi at the moment. Surely at some point Yossi's going to have to pull the trigger and put Ian Van Oonen under pressure and let the ET8 driver figure out what to do.
Somebody that is feeling the pressure further down the field again with Flopman and Macho fighting out. Lou on the back of Ryan's an interesting battle further down the field. But again, Flopman trying to get very, very animated to try and get this job done. Macho again, though, flies out of Anthony Norge and now puts Gabor on the front foot compared to Flopman and behind. And Flopman now, is he going to try and use up a bit of ERS again into the back of Macho? Just forces them a bit off centre through the corner. Now up the hill and towards Massenet Casino Square. Flopman needs to be very, very careful. Is he going to think about the outside line? No. Macho is putting that in places where 99% of you, including us in the comment box, wouldn't dare to think of putting your car right now. The Mercedes doing a fantastic job in defence. Flopman there in fourth has got to try and become the minister of attack, quite literally, here in Monaco.
Yeah, it's going to be in the part of the WOR cabinet, unfortunately, is those drivers out in the field. People in the comments saying that there's potentially a damage on Yossi's car. I did make a point about that one before. I was going to make a point before I ended up taking a breather. Unfortunately, he did plough into the wall going through the swimming pool chicane, and I think Yossi has got damage, which is now the last thing that F7 are in. It's the inside line causing damage, which means now he's falling out of the DRS territory. He's going to fall as far as Macho, and Macho, of course, means that he's going to end up wearing out his tyres quicker because I don't think it's going to get past Yossi that quick. The question is now, what do F7R do? Do they pit their man and try and get him on a two-stop and try and maybe use a set of soft tyres around about lap 27, 28, go a little bit earlier? What's the plan for Yossi now? Because now with Ian Van Oonen's nearest rival, it's not going to make any overtakes with that damage.
He's going to have to hope that Ian Van Oonen gets in his own head and makes his own mistake. That's quite simply now put. For Yossi. Yossi there, 1.4 seconds. If he has got damage, it's on the right side end plate, and I think it's a winglet that is missing on that right-hand side. It's very minimal to the naked eye, and it's probably light green, sort of greenish sort of damage that he's got right now. But it is affecting the steering of the car, and he will definitely feel it, as you mentioned. He's there in second. Flopman there in 4th, on behind Macho. Macho, I think, has got to realise this. If I was in Team Shazoo right now, I'd be egging Macho on, just telling him up the pace.
Yeah.
Yossi's got a bit of damage. He's going to come back to you anyways. Macho has got to try and find something. And now, because Flopman is starting to drop off with how aggressive he's gone in behind a Macho, Macho now is carrying these guys forward onto the back of Yossi. Yossi is losing time. It's about 4/10, 5/10 per lap. It's enough damage to make it noticeable. And Yossi now, only way now, unfortunately, unlike the famous song, The Only Way Is Up, Yossi there, the only way, unfortunately, it seems, is down.
Yeah, no, this is disappointing here for F7R because they'd have thought they might have had an outside chance of winning this one. Suddenly, it's looking like there may be a possibility they might not even get on the podium as it stands. They're going to have to hope that Legend starts making some inroads on Gabba because Gabba is just holding his horses. If anything, actually, he's putting Flopman under pressure. Now, Flopman, I think one of the comments coming in from Nordic Ninja who says that finally Flopman taking a breather as we've got Sergio going for it against Raphael going into Mirabeau, getting a bit of a tag slapper to try and defend this one. Tom Gold can only stay in 10th, but a good dive there from Sergio on the hard tyres, and ET8 is suddenly saying to their drivers, our nearest rivals, they're struggling, we're going to take this one, boys.
Yeah, and Sergio there into 8th position. That is cool-hearted and killer-like from the man in the Aston Martin. There in 8th. He was having issues getting into the lobby and qualifying. No issues whatsoever in terms of that move. He absolutely flew down the inside line in towards Mirabeau. And now, because of Flopman now on the back of Macho, I wonder if he's got a little bit of damage on that car as well. Gabor there in 5th is beginning to try and push forward. These are critical corners and critical laps in this Form 3. It's still 14 to go. Ian Van Unen leads. Yossi there in 2nd. Macho there in 3rd. Flopman 4th, Gabor, Legend, Allison, Sergio, Raphael and Tom, the top 10. Scrap that. There's Tom trying to go to the inside line on the back of Raphael up the hill in towards Massenet. Are we going to see an overtake around the outside of Massenet here from Tom to the outside line on the back of the OP the former OP Manor Twist? Tries to go for the move, but not going to have
massive end plate damage. Oh, it's definitely done.
Has got damage.
Yeah, it's massive end plate damage on one side, and I think on the other side he's definitely got some light green. I have a feeling he's going to have to pit now, will Shazoo, Tom, and this is what I was saying about Shazoo. The consistency's not there. He's been given the opportunity to try and get an overtake done, and now he's suffering with damage on his front wing. So that will be it for Tom's stint on this one. Surely he's not going to pit now. Surely he is going to pit now on this one. Asking the question of what's happening with Macho. I agree. He's not really gaining because it's a mistake from Macho because Flopman's going side by side into the wall going through to back, and that might be some damage from Macho. Now down to 4th as a result of a wheel disconnect. Again, it has happened for Team Shazoo. It's going from bad to worse for the team from 3rd place last season who now fall from 3rd to 4th. Macho is struggling out there with hardware issues, and now Gabba is on the back of him, and remember Macho also ploughing it into the wall when racing side by side with Flopman.
And Flopman had to go for that. He had no other choice. If the equipment was failing Macho, there was only one thing. Send it and hope for the best. And that's what Flopman did. And he did hope for the best because he's now through and he's into 3rd on the back of Macho, who was seemingly had another wheel disconnect and was seeing the gap dropping down, coming out of the back of the Nivelle chicane. That was where it happened. And Macho there in 4th. Very lucky, actually, for Flopman to get ahead of him. But now Macho has got Gabor and Legend and Allison in this fight. Sergio's trying to join in the mix as well. He's closing in rapidly now on that set of hards compared to the guys on the set of mediums. So he could be one to watch out for later on this race. Ian Van Unen, though, leading the way. 2.8 seconds the gap. It's not the 28.8 that we had at this stage of the race with Louis Valentine. Yossi there in 2nd. Flopman there in 3rd. Battles, though, up and down the field, Jota. Placky now on the back of Tom, looking pretty interesting, along with Joe Murphy. 11th, 12th, and 13th down in the mid-pack. Tom with that damage. Placky trying to go for the switch back in towards the back. Surely not down the inside here. Thinks again. Falls to Tom in the
Finds it, though.
Thank you very much. There's Placky. Beautiful move by Placky. And that is what you call absolutely throwing Tom quite literally to the pigeons.
Here he comes then. Surely he's got to pit now, and he is. He's pitting immediately as Tom. He can't continue with that kind of sort of wing damage here. He's going to have to pit for a set of soft tyres and try and take him 12 laps, or maybe another set of mediums if you can. Yeah, it will be another fresh set of medium tyres to the end of this race with a fresh front wing for Shazoo Tom, and hope that a safety car arrives on the scene for him. Ian Van Unen now starting to pull that gap on Yossi quite nicely. Yossi has managed to find maybe a little bit of more consistency despite the damage on his car, but it is just the lightest of taps. On there, here we go, and as Dirk is making an overtake down in P10 and P9, and it is a dive back here. Raphael trying to hold on. Raphael's got got no front wing whatsoever, and he's still trying to defend the move. A shocking move here from EPL to let his drivers stay out there with that kind of damage, and now surely is going to hemorrhage the positions. EPL Raphael coming out of nowhere with no front wing whatsoever. Joe Murphy has got to keep that one in mind as he collides potentially into the wall and then makes the dive down the inside line as Raphael, rightly so, gives the position up. Fresh front wing awaiting for the Haas runner.
And now look at Placky again to the inside of Dirk, trying to find the move on the back of like Tom. Last time around, Tom obviously in for that set of mediums. It'll be a set of hard compounded tyres for Placky. Now with 2 lap pressure tyres compared to Dirk. Dirk doing a good job. Kenty was saying he's just returned from the gym to see Dirk in the points. Dirk's in 9th position, and now he's under pressure from TTM and BRT in behind, and that is what you do not want from the man of TF10 right now, of Dirk, who of course replaced one of their drivers who was due to be racing here tonight as well, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, was TF10 Backy. Dirk, they're replacing him in 9th, in the points, doing a good job. Placky there in 10th, Joe Murphy in 11th, looking to try and get this move done. Maybe in towards Mirabel, he'll think about it. The Dutchman to the inside line, cannot find a way through. Around the outside, never going to work.
Bold move, I'd say, to be fair, to look for it there, but it wasn't going to happen. Hard tyres are now switching on. I did say it'd be around about this point now where I think the medium tyres are going to start to become a problem. Now imagine you're a person with, let's say, wing damage in 2nd place, trying to hold on to 2nd place as a result of that one. Now what's helping Yossi at the moment is the fact that Flotman and Macho and all that are not really making any inroads at the moment. So Yossi's managed to find his own rhythm now, knowing that he's got a bit of understeer in the car, but I think he's just sort of consolidated the fact he knows he's got probably only 2nd place on the cards here. But remember, with that front wing damage, he's obviously going to be tearing his tyres to bits, and that means he might be under a little bit more pressure towards the end of this race, because these medium tyres went on very early in the stint. Allison should pit, take a risk, will be seconds faster, says Luke himself in the chat. And I'd say that's a bold call, actually, and not a bad one. Why not? Go in for the pits here. There's a bit of a gap between him and Dirk. He would come in behind here, as we've got Placky getting into a little bit of a battle now against Dirk here, of course, on the hard tyres, which are looking very, very nice indeed, you'd have to say. Tom going fastest on the fresh medium tyres. Remember, of course, he pitted after getting that major front wing damage earlier on in that battle for P10. But as it stands, Placky is looking mighty fast at the moment on these hard tyres. Double lock-up going through the hairpin, though.
Yeah, to be fair, Luke Humphries saying in the chat that Allison should take a risk. He'll be ending up in traffic if he does, and this is the same Luke Humphries, by the way, that was slower than Igor Jelen in qualifiers for WOR at Legacy Division this season. Just throwing that out there. Placky on the back of Dirk, 9th and 10th position. That is going to be fine for my job.
Oh, my goodness me!
Line. Joe Murphy picks up a 3-second penalty and all that as well. I think they all pretty much nearly went on the inside curve and nearly overran the corner. I think Dirk was the only one that got it stopped. Placky there running over the inside curve. I think he picked up a warning. Joe Murphy there in 11th, just about getting away with that for that 3-second penalty. And now BRT Lou, as a result, is in all of this battle as well. Igor Jelen, Flo Gavano. Igor Jelen, by the way, in the points. The GOAT of CPI, there in 13th. It's unlucky for Soma, it's unlucky for him right now. But he is doing a good job as Placky once again tries to find this move on the back of Placky, on the back of Dirk even, not finding a move on himself. Placky on the back of Dirk, not finding a way through this time around. But again, Dirk is so slow coming through this part of the track.
Surely
Placky
now
should just, I think, dive it.
He might dive it now. He's going to go for it, and you're absolutely spot on going into Mirabeau. And that corner is now done and dusted. He wants the move. He's got the move, and he's out taking it up. 9th place for him. Sergio, by the way, is now really closing up on this pack of medium tyre runners, up in 8th place now. So now the hard tyre runners are now starting to develop their race. 9 laps to go. Anything can happen, and it usually does. Look at the back of Sergio. It is TTM Allison is on the back of this one now. So, of course, we're on the medium tyre. Alternative strategy versus Placky. Placky and Sergio's race are now starting to come alive into the wall, though. Is that potentially front wing damage, though, for Sergio?
I think it might be Sergio there in 8th position. I think getting away with that. Allison is the one now under pressure, as you mentioned. The TTM man in 7th, doing a good job. Sergio there in 8th. Joe Murphy all over the back of Dirk as well. Not round the outside and towards Raskas. Surely not. He tries to get the switchback coming out. Doesn't get the job done. Does the Irishman, the Singapore P3 setter, of course, the podium setter for him. He's on the back there of Dirk, in towards turn 1, not getting the job done. Gabor on the back of Macho, and again, Macho was at another wheel disconnect, I think. Out on track, 2.4 seconds. Gabor there, 6/10 down. Flopman now getting on the back of Yossi, and Flopman has got 94% of ERS to dispose of as well. So this is going to be big now for OP against F7R Yossi, who's just maintaining his ERS as well. 70% that he's got. Flopman with no damage seemingly. Yossi with a bit of right side end plate damage on that car. Flopman now beginning to get into contention. F7R and OP, thank you very much. I want to pay for this one.
It's going to be a bit of a close one. I'm just keeping an eye out on the situation with BRT, by the way. Joe Murphy and Lou have swapped positions going up the hill after committing no heroics at Saint Devot. So in that scenario, Lou is now chasing Dirk at the moment, and a little bit of a potential going into Mirabeau, but in the end electing not to go for it too hard. Through swimming pool now, Lou will go, and then going through the set of chicanes, then heading into La Rascasse. Will the gap be there for him to potentially go for it? He might do. He goes for the outside line, trying to get potentially the traction to go through here into Anthony Noakes. He will stay on the back end, but again, going on the power quite early is TF10 Dirk, and is able to pull that gap. Even with the DRS available, the straight is just not straight enough, and not long enough indeed, and stays in 10th place, Will Dirk. Allison getting a 3-second time penalty for his troubles, by the way. 9 and nearly 10 seconds back is his teammate Plaque, but of course now Sergio making the move on Allison means that he's now beginning to make some inroads. 5-second the gap, with a bunch of drivers in front all racing with each other on tyres that are starting to wear pretty thin. Here comes Lou then looking into this one.
Lou on the outside in toward the Grand Hotel hairpin, tried the switch back coming out of Mirabeau, and now in towards Mirabeau Bass at the bottom of the hill. Now to the inside line in towards Portier. Never see a move around here. Down the inside in towards Portier. They're going to be side by side coming out of this part of the track. And now Joe Murphy getting in the mix as well. The Red Bull could be bullied out here by the BRT team. Joe Murphy there looking to try and find a way through. Lou to the inside line of the Nivelle chicane. They just about get away with it.
Still side by side.
Wheel banging. They're still side by side. Dirk and Lou, side by side, coming through to the back, a little bit of wheel banging, nearly in the wall is Lou. They're still side by side. Lou picks up a 3-second penalty. That's the end of that one. Dirk there through.
Oh,
Lou
switch
still
back.
trying to find a way through. Joe Murphy now switching to the outside on. This is remarkable racing, given it's Monaco. This is absolutely brilliant. But looks to the inside on again, does Dirk. P10 just about holding on. But Lou's going to come back at him in towards turn 1. Not going to be close enough. But look at what this has led into.
Oh,
Tom,
dear.
Igor Jelen, Raphael, Flo and Gavano, and Ogween all now catching.
Now look at Tom, fresh soft tyres, he's looking quick, trying to go around the outside then, he's going to have the grip, and he's going to get shut off. He does get shut off by the Irishman. Joe Murphy, little mistake though from TF10 Dirk, and that's allowed Lou to get through. Dive bomb from EFPL's Raphael on Tom, and Tom will wonder where that's come from. And look at this, from the dive down inside there from CPI's Igor Jelen, looking pretty sharp around for 15th place, and suddenly Tom will be wondering how the hell is he in 14th all of a sudden. And it's mighty close stuff here as they go side by side through Portier, and in the end side by side they will go. Giovanni for EPL will stay in 16th as Igor Jelen collides into the side of him going through here. There is no front wing whatsoever, it's a double lock up, and he will progress onwards, and that will be the end of Igor Jelen's race for certain, with a 3-second time penalty and no front wing at all.
And all of that led from Dirk, Lou, and Joe Murphy having that aggressive fight and bringing everyone else into play, and they got far too aggressive far too quickly as a result. But it is Monaco. We can let it slide. If it was around another track, I wouldn't be letting that slide, put it that way. Dirk there in 11th, Joe Murphy there in 12th. Joe Murphy now looking on the back of Dirk, who I think has definitely got some resemblance of damage in that Red Bull car. Joe Murphy now looking on the back, maybe onto the outside line in towards Massenet if he's got the tyres to try and go around the outside, but watch out in behind because Raphael, former OP man, of course,
gotta go for it now.
looking to the inside line, in towards Mirabeau on the brakes, trying to get the job
Still
done.
there.
Joe Murphy, there's still
Oh
the
my
inside
goodness
line.
me.
Raphael, it's going to get aggressive. Somebody's
He's
in the wall. Raphael's in the wall. Just about gets away with it though, but he remains in behind Joe Murphy.
There's no way that he's not got away with that without damage, because that was a pretty hefty impact into the wall straight on. There's no way Raphael got away with that one, and Joe Murphy is going to be looking over broad shoulders saying, oh, my shoulders, my elbows, shoulders, knees and toes are all out there. I'm not letting anyone out there in that scenario, that's for certain. But TF10 Dirk somehow is still in 11th, by the way, while this all happened. It's a valiant defensive effort here from the Red Bull, and TF10 will certainly be happy to know that their drivers are very textbook in their defensive strategy. Oh, it's a mistake there from Joe Murphy, and Raphael actually getting into the back of him ever so slightly. I think he has got away without damage, you know. It is mighty close stuff here. Remember, of course, Raphael and Tom all pitted, so they've got fresh medium tyres on compared to everyone else at the moment. Gap now starting to really shrink down towards the front. I'm sorry, I know we're having to sort of cut between events at the moment here, but Yossi now with major front wing damage, of course, or light front wing damage is enough. That he's now 9 seconds back from Ian Van Oonen with 4 laps to go. Flotman is now within 4/10 of him here. Yossi's going to make a valiant effort to try and hold on here, but his tyres are going to be significantly more worn versus Flotman's.
Yeah, Flotman was right on the back of Yossi. I was watching him through that first and middle sector, and he was right on the back of Yossi, almost as if he was going to try and force the move. And again, far too aggressive in terms of locking up, going into the brakes there, in towards Raskas, and now in towards Anthony Nolge again. 0.5 of a second, puts him on the back foot, now gets on the front foot again because the DRS is enabled down the straight, tries to close in, but Flotman needs to now think where Yossi's weakness is. Yossi's weakness, for me, is in that middle sector, coming through the hotel hairpin, all the way down in towards the Nivelle chicane. That is where he is the weakest. Flotman is the strongest coming through there, and you can tell already he's going to try and size this up, potentially coming out of Portier, down into the Nivelle chicane. If he's not, I would be very surprised, but he has just clouded the wall, which just puts him on the back foot.
I'm just keeping an eye on Legend and Gabba at the moment. They're starting to get a little bit more aggressive. 3 laps to go in this race. These medium tyres, of course, are dead, let's be candid, so they're not going to be at their best here. So the question is who is going to go one step too far? Because, of course, if one person goes one step too far and it's towards the front, there's about 3 or 4 drivers that may end up getting swallowed up as a result of that one as well. They will continue on with the battling, but the gap now 10.5 seconds is now starting to look a bit Louis Valentine at the moment. Perhaps not as much as the 30 plus seconds as it was at this point, but 10 seconds now as Ian Van Oonen is starting to really show that ET8 are a force to be reckoned with after just 1 round. Plaque, 3-second penalty for TTM now, and that is now the leaders of the front runners of those with the penalties in 8th and 9th. Those around them, Lou also with the penalty. Dirk could be wise to try and get close here because he could earn points off of the back of it.
Flotman on the back of Yossi, though, 2nd and 3rd. This is really now beginning to string out in the mid-pack, so we're going to focus now on this battle for 2nd, because Flotman, once again, is all over the back of Yossi. He is like that rash that does not go away, even if you've been to the doctors to treat it. Flotman is still that rash that doesn't go away, and he's on the back of Yossi in 2nd. Flotman there in 3rd. Macho in 4th, Gabor in 5th, Legend in 6th. They're not entirely out of this either. If something kicks off between Yossi and Flotman, the rest in behind are going to know about it. Ian Van Oonen is on for this race win, by the way. 11.5 seconds clear. Not Louis Valentine-esque in terms of 29.7 seconds or whatever it was last season. It's going to be around about 13, 14, 15 seconds in that range towards the end of this race. Yossi's done a phenomenal job there in 2nd. Flotman there in 3rd. But when you've got an OP man that does not want to give in, does not want to go away, Yossi is the man that is in deep trouble going on to the final 2 laps.
He will be as well, because of course the tyres are being shredded at the moment with that front wing damage, and it is very light, but it is enough that he can feel it, and he's lost so much time to Ian Van Oonen, who's going to be so happy with his current position. He just needs to bring it home for ET8 as it stands, but as regards to what the podium is going to look like, I have no idea, because it could be one of up to 6 drivers that are going to determine the podium here, potentially 7 if Sergio gets into the mix here, depending on what happens in front. Let's say Yossi and Flotman getting into an accident. What happens with Macho, Gabba and Legend, who are all very in close proximity? They could get involved in said accident, so they've got to try and keep it steady. And remember, of course, Flotman's already made
Raphael!
4 mistakes as Raphael going for a little bit of a dive down for 11th place versus Dirk, but Dirk is still again holding on for 11th place at the moment. A valiant effort from the TF10 man, who is going to be seriously in the books for TF10 as regards if they need a defensive driver, because BE has been absolutely astonishing from start to finish, and he's still holding on, and they can't find a gap at all, because of course Dirk is just finding everything he needs. He's getting pushed around the circuit, is Dirk, but he will remain in P11.
And there's right on end plate damage for Joe Murphy and Tom in behind, which is going to make this hell of a lot interesting as that Ugly nearly goes into the back of Flo. Might have lost a bit of front wing damage there in behind. Cabano there in behind as well in all this battle. This mid-pack battle is now beginning to kick off, which is why we're now back on board with this. It now comes through the insider to back. It's turn number 10, I think it is. Tom and Joe Murphy side by side now down the straight in towards now the right-hander of the Nivelle chicane once again. And now through the chicane We will go. Legend on the back of Gabor, though. Might have to try and go on board with this because it goes to the outside line in towards turn before. Can't find the move done, but Macho now dropping behind. Gabor, Legend, all sprinting apart. Gabor makes a huge mistake. Legend now. Wait,
oh, 3 wide!
On the outside. It's 3 wide. And Gabor,
oh, it's a spin out!
No,
it wasn't going to work. You can't go 3 wide through there. It's a reset from Macho as well. Not sure if there's going to be any penalties on Shizu's side of it. You don't go 3 wide through that corner at the best of times and then approach a hairpin, which you go at less than 20 miles an hour 3 wide. It's not going to happen. It's unfortunate, but that is just a testament to what happens when people start getting into all kinds of situations here, as Ian Van Oonen is going to be approaching Antinog's corner and taking what is going to be a valiant victory for ET8 in the end, and Sergio will be happy at the moment being in P6. It's a race victory for Ian Van Oonen. Yossi will in the end finish in P2 unless any mistakes happen at the final corner from Yossi and Flopman, who will hold on then in the end. And F7R getting here as Legend is looking to try and get a P4. It's not going to happen on this occasion. The podium is complete, and Sergio takes a position over the finishing line and finishes in P5 for ET8. And what an effort indeed for ET8, who are going to be taking big points tonight. Surely will be leading the championship. Shizu Macho finishes in 7th, from Allison in 8th. Placky will finish in 9th, with Lou in P10, who will take out the final positions in the top 10. Of course, remember, 15 positions take points here tonight, so Raphael will finish in 11th place, with Tom in 12th, who is still battling, by the way, for 11th place. It's a bit of a dive, potentially going into Anthony Noakes, but I think Tom is just going to have to consolidate P12, and what I believe will be 4 points for him. BRT's Joe Murphy will finish in 13th place in the end, from the, in fact, actually, a podium positions will be taken off him as a result of the time penalties that will be applied. So Ogween will finish in 12th, and Flo in 13th. Tom will finish in 14th, and Ryan for Outplayed Racing will finish with the final point in the end. What a race in the end for the Monaco Grand Prix. There was a little bit of struggle for overtaking, but people were making some drastic moves and mistakes were made.
Drastic moves, mistakes were made. It's Monaco, though. I wouldn't expect anything else. Welcome to Season 4 of WOR Legacy Division, is what we can say after that one. Ian Van Oonen, though, out on top. Ex-Veloce Academy man, now a part of ET8. On paper, that is just a brilliant signing. Proven to be a brilliant signing here tonight, because he absolutely dominated. Yes, Yossi had that damage on that car. It may well have been a little bit different, but a fantastic race from Ian Van Oonen. Takes the race win. ET8, I think, are going to lead the championship going into round 2 as well, with Sergio grabbing Legend through the final corner. Legend made a mistake coming through that final corner, which is what led Sergio to get the move done on Legend for that 5th position. But in the end, Ian Van Oonen out on top. A fantastic win from his perspective. F7R Yossi in 2nd. I wish it would have been different, but it's not. And Flopman there in the end in 3rd. In what was a pretty aggressive race given Monaco standards.
Yeah, given Monaco standards, you're spot on. It was a little bit of an aggressive thing, but you know what? On paper, it does look like a pretty hefty overtaking scenario there. Look, first place obviously won it from first, but Yossi up from 3rd to 2nd. You've got Flopman from 4th to 3rd. You've got Gabba from 7th to 4th. A great effort for Novus. 5th place for Sergio from 10th place overall. And remember, of course, he went onto the hard tyre, and that ET8 strategy cooked, didn't it? Lou up from 18th to 10th. Great effort from him as well. That one safety car really did mix it up in the end. Only one DNF in the end from Gutowski down at the bottom. I mean, what an effort indeed from the field of drivers out there. And I mean, got to admit, Monaco always brings something special, doesn't it? You know, in WR Legacy Division as a season opener, but just crispy. Brilliant.
Absolutely crispy. Yeah, crispy as anything. And I know he was there in the chat, so it is going to be turned into a pun, I'm absolutely sure. But fantastic racing out on track. Ian Van Oonen in the end took the race win. It was a brilliant race win as well, I think, from his perspective. We have got a man who did finish in the top 3 as well in the interviews room with us as well in F7R Yossi. We'll come to him in just a second. But yeah, Ian Van Oonen taking that race win. He could have been stopped, I think, by Yossi if he didn't pick up what we think is damage on that car. I'm sure we'll get confirmation from him in a second. But a fantastic win from him. and ET8 out on top, and it's the first time ever that they've led Legacy Division.
Yeah, and that is absolutely astonishing effort from ET8 as well. They will be happy about this one. So let's have a quick conversation actually with F7R Yossi, who actually has just joined us in the interview room as well. Good evening to yourself, Yossi. Great second place in the end, considering I think the pressure from what seemed to be a little bit of a collision at the swimming pool section. You got a little bit of damage, I think, but in the end, a really, really good effort for second place. But F7R have got to be feeling it now. There is competition out there tonight.
Yeah, great start for the season. Yeah, it was a strange race. Didn't really practice a lot, but and had to do it with another wheel. So yeah, I was a bit upset before the race, but the result is really good. But a bit upset as well because I took damage, as you probably guessed. I took damage like it in the end of the race. I had yeah, it wasn't big, but 3-4 tenths a lap on the ET8. But very very great drive from him. He was perfect, no mistakes, and GT to him.
Yeah, no, really good effort from yourself in the end, though, to get that second place. Obviously, F7R are, you know, they're going in here as the defending champions now, of course. This is the first time where I think perhaps you guys were a little bit disjointed potentially in qualifying. You managed to get that rhythm back together for the race. Now, I'm assuming going through into the season then, you know, what have you been working on into the season as a team? Have you been working on, is it consistency? Is it just general pace? Is it qualifying? What have you been working on as the champion team?
I think we have been working on everything as everybody did. But yeah, for me, I really need to work on the consistency and need to train more for the races.
Fair comment, James.
Yeah, obviously you picked up that damage, Yossi, and it was probably because he had the pressure put on me by predicting him for the race win, but there we are. Yossi, though, P2 out on track, is there anything you could have done potentially to try and fight with Ian Van Unen if you didn't have that damage? Because you won the fresher tyres, you had the pace initially, and then you picked up that damage, and then it all went downhill from there.
I think, as you know, it's very, very hard to overtake at Monaco. But yeah, on his hard tires, he did very well to defend. And even if I think even if I didn't take damage, he would have won because he was a step one step up on everyone.
Yeah, definitely so. And obviously, going into round 2 of the championship, we have got on our list Qatar. It's a sprint race, so there is extra points available, but it is Qatar, a race that a track that I know that you've done well at in the past. How do you think you're going to feel going on into there if you are going to be racing?
If I race, I think it can be a good track. I just need to train a lot to get the best result as possible, and just need to get that consistency in, and do the best I can.
That's all you can do at the end of the day. And same with F7R. Do your best is all you can do. And you never know where it might end up. It could be a 2-time champion by the end of the season. But that is all from me, Jossa. Back over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. So we are in for an absolute blinder, I'm sure, Yossi. Obviously, the final question from myself really is, what are the team's expectations? Sure, they're going to be defending the championship, but what was the atmosphere in the team like, you know, knowing that, you know, the likes of TTM qualified really well up until Q3, but then we had the likes of ET8 getting in there as well. We had a bit of a mixed bag with Novus also in there. Do you guys expect that the championship is going to be more aggressive and more sort of long, is it going to be a wider atmosphere, if you will, with more teams getting involved in this championship?
For me, I can't really know just from run races, especially Monaco, which is a very special track. So I don't really know which teams. Probably ET8. I don't know, can be very good during the season and can fight for the championship. So yeah, we'll need we'll see during the next races which team will get off the pack.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that anyway, and a bit best of luck for the rest of the season as well, and congratulations cracking second place from yourself. We're still waiting on other people potentially to join us in this one. So what we'll do is we'll have a brief conversation, James, obviously about what we effectively saw throughout that championship, throughout that race rather, is that what we ended up witnessing was, I think, a bunch of drivers that were really, really aggressive throughout that entire race. I think there was a lot of competition for just the scraps of points as well. I mean, we saw that with the likes of Joe Murphy and Tom really, really scrapping out all the way to the end. Is this something, do you think, that we're going to be seeing throughout this tournament? Or is this, again, like Yossi mentions, it is a peculiar track, isn't it, Monaco? It usually does bring the best and worst in people. But is this something that you reckon that we're going to see potentially later down the line throughout the championship? Or do you reckon it's probably just going to be a one-off?
I honestly hope not. I hope the standards of driving are certainly better than what we had in Las Vegas, for example, last season, and what we had tonight in Monaco. I really hope that the standards are going to be better. Going into Qatar next week, it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence, I'll be honest. You can get some really good races in terms of Qatar. We've got the sprint race, of course, as well, which hopefully is going to set a little bit of discipline, first and foremost, in terms of the drivers. But second of all, I really hope that we get a good race, because you can get sometimes an absolute cracker of a race in Qatar, and then you can get people bombing it down the inside line towards turn number 5, which always tends to happen at Qatar. But hopefully we don't get to see the driving standards drop throughout the season. Monaco is and always will be, I think, race of the season, just for now anyways. Qatar, of course, next week. But no, I'm looking forward to it. It sets up the stone very nicely indeed for what is to come in terms of season 4 of Legacy Division, with still 14 rounds to go and quite a lot of new things in that calendar as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll actually go through the calendar in just a few short moments, actually, because we've also got many things to discuss. We've also got our individual calendar as well for the Commentators Challenge as well, which I'm certainly looking forward to working with you on as well. So plenty of things are coming up in WOR Legacy, plenty of things happening over on our Twitter at WOR League as well. So we will go through the calendar in just a few short moments when I try and get the graphic on there. So, I want to sort of very briefly go through one last thing, I think, which is the race itself obviously was really intense. I think we have some midfielders that are starting to show already that they are ones to sort of contend with. One of them was TTM. I am disappointed with how their qualifying in Q3 happened, because I think that really set the precedent for their race. They tried to mix the strategy by doing a hard medium and a medium hard. In the end, they both sort of finished similarly, so they've got that consistency flowing, but they need to get that qualifying right. They bottled Q3. I think that bottled their race. Definitely still wants to watch, though, right?
Definitely still wants to watch, yeah. And I think Monaco personally wasn't a track that suited many teams. And that's what we found out. We saw TTM and how they were going in qualifying and how they ended up in the race. They ended up, well, washed. And unfortunately for you, certainly they ended up washed Jota on track. But
well, it looks like we might have got a little bit of a disconnection issue happening here. I'm not sure if... I think we're still live on my side here, so very peculiar. Hopefully we'll get James back in just a few short moments. It's bold time, isn't it, for his laptop to just die on this one. So we'll get that one back up and running as soon as we can. But yeah, we are going to be in for an absolute blinder, ahead of us as regards of the championship, I think. As I think, fingers crossed, we do have James back with us. It looks like we've had a bit of a disconnection thing from him. Is he back? No, it doesn't look like he is. So we'll definitely review that one as and when we can. But we are going to just very quickly head over to the calendar in just a few short moments to actually review this, because I think it's one that we need to sort of consider later down the line, because the calendar, immediately suggests that we're going to end up having a bit of a mixed bag, aren't we? We've got a bit of a mixed bag everywhere in relation to, the calendar where we're going. But in the end, the calendar looks like this, where we've got, a pretty intense sprint race, of course, at Qatar. Qatar is always going to be a race that ends up bringing, the worst in the Pirelli rubber. So fingers crossed we will be able to get, you know, a little bit of racing from there. Bahrain, we've also got the custom weather format, and then we've of course got the intense 2 short qualifying and 35% races at France and China, before we have a little mixed bag in a track reveal on stream for round 13. James is back with us. We've got the calendar on screen right now. Obviously, we've finished Monaco. Next week we're in Qatar, but that mixed bag of that calendar is always going to make for a bit of a spicy affair.
Yeah, apologies about that. My laptop decided to disconnect me from the internet and then just reconnect me
Thought
all of a
so.
sudden.
Thought so.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting calendar. I think it's going to be one of those where the likes of Azerbaijan, I think, is going to separate people. I think Las Vegas is going to separate drivers as well. I mean, we've got obviously new formats, as you mentioned, custom weather. We've got the track revealed on stream. We've got the 2 short qualifying and 2 35% races. Them, of course, in France and China. There is so much on this calendar to actually love for. Austria, of course, being the final round of the championship. Britain being the round before that as well. All sets up very nicely for what is hopefully going to be a really, really good season. Qatar in second is Qatar round 2 of the championship is where I got robbed of the win in League of Europe, and Bahrain is a track that I've actually won at. So at least I can say those things next week, for the next 2 weeks at least.
I mean, absolutely. It's going to be an absolute blinder, to say the least. This will conclude our stream then. I don't think we're going to have any more interviews tonight anyway, as we look forward to what I think is going to be a very, very intense calendar with the sort of mixed bag here, there and everywhere. That will be it, though, from myself and James. Obviously, we'll be back in 1 week's time with the Qatar Grand Prix. Of course, we have got the sprint race, followed on by what is, I think, going to be a complete tyre shredder of a race before we go to Bahrain on February the 6th. But from myself and the rest of the team here, Legacy Division's back, and we're going to be in for an absolute blinder. Take care. Bye-bye for now.